Welcome to Nacht Waffen Pilot. Today, my guest is Joseph Powell, returning to us again. But before we get started, in about 2 weeks, just under 2 weeks, Joseph and I are going to be at a conference in Las Vegas. We will be at the Golden Nugget from November 4th through the 7th. And this is being produced by 5devents.com. And I believe there are still some tickets available. So this is actually a consciousness conference, and how SSP relates to consciousness, I'm not particularly sure, but they're the ones willing to have us. So for those who are in the community and will know who these names are, we will have Tony Rodriguez, Eric Hecker, me, Joseph, Misha Johnston, James Rink, and Anthony Zender. And we will be having a big panel with all of us the first day. So don't miss it. I'm going to be having surgery next month, and this will be my last public appearance for a while. So you should get down there and do it. So welcome, Joseph.
Hello. Nice to talk to you again, Penny.
Well, it's good to have you back. You told me that you had more memories.
Yes.
For the people who have forgotten, Joseph and I have served on a ship together, so I know this man is real. Just putting it out there.
Yeah. Basically, a lot of it has come back from my service in Mars, where I was with Mars Defense Force at first. And it was like, so basically from where I talked about before, I had shown up like in this area where there was like a base, and, you know, to go over it again, I was basically offered like 3 different uniforms to wear while I'm like standing out in the middle, like outside in the middle of this like desert area. And there's a bunch of like different people doing different stuff, and they're all wearing uniforms, and like there's some vehicles and things that I can remember seeing. And basically I was interacting with this individual, and he had brought up like the first uniform was like a brown one, and it had, you know, like it was like crap brown, and it looked kind of like a Power Rangers uniform almost.
Okay.
It's quite it was very ugly, but it was,
that must have been after I left Mars.
yeah, it was really ugly, but it was like it actually had more protection than the other one, and the other one I think was white of some sort, and like then they had this black one, and it had no protection at all, but that was the best looking outfit that they had.
Yeah.
So I chose to wear the black.
What I remember their uniforms was they had pretty uniforms, or they had uniforms that worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was like a catch-22. They were like, oh, he's probably going to wear the nice one. We'll use that.
So, yeah, I left in 1990. And at that point, Mars Defense Force was using a camouflage, and it was basically the desert camouflage that's used on Earth, the one that's kind of a rose and gray and black and white together. So that was the one they were using then.
Yeah, by the time I probably went there, I was between either 12 to 14, somewhere in there. So it was like, and I was born in 1988, so, you know, 12 or 14 years after that. But yeah, so like I ended up putting on the black uniform, or asking to wear the black uniform. And
Was
you
it
kind of,
at least a smart suit?
no, no, no. It was
Oh,
just a regular
no.
black uniforms. There was like no protection on it whatsoever. And they
Bitch,
had,
old.
yeah, well, not only that, it was like they made me strip outside
Mhm.
and change into the uniform outside in front of everybody that was walking by, you know,
You have no privacy there.
which I got to say was kind of embarrassing in a way. It's like, because
You
I
have
remembered,
no privacy there. I mean, it's
yeah,
like you don't belong to you.
yeah, it was like in that moment, like I remember remembering myself as a kid
Ah,
from on Earth. And I just like, I was in this adult body that was me, but it was actually an adult body, you know, like in your prime age. I think I was like 25 or something like that at the time, or what looked to be 25. But I was an adult, and like I had to like I've explained, it was like I had all these emotions and feelings and just totally different from being a kid, you know?
mhm.
So I'm sitting there and I'm like stripping down naked. And all of a sudden, you know, there was a woman that walked up. And when she did, I was like embarrassed as shit as it was, you know? And I went from being bullied in school to being like a grown up now, you know? So I was like, I'm cool now, you know?
You're cool now, but they're
Yeah,
making you strip naked and women
right.
walking up,
That's,
right?
yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
thought, you know? I figured, well,
that's
maybe
the
now I
way
can
it
be
works
cool.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, maybe I can be cool now. And then, so this woman
Nope.
walked by, and I was looking at her, and I was like, oh wow, you know, I had this weird feelings, you know what I mean? And then like she
Mhm.
stood off to the side behind me, off to my left hand side, like kind of a little behind me, almost catty corner, right? So I'm like sitting there, and I'm getting changed, and I look back, and I make you know, a stupid ass comment. I'm like, don't worry, I'll protect you. Like this, I didn't even know what the hell I was doing, and she just looked at me like, she was just like, she crossed her arms and just was like, you know, she gave me this look like, oh, here we go again, you know.
Uh-huh. Newbies,
Yeah, more, you know, more cannon fodder. You know.
newbies.
And I believe that she was wearing like a black smart suit.
Uh,
Like she wasn't wearing what I was wearing, and I never paid attention to that. um like now that I went back and like looked at it and started like assessing my memory, it was kind of weird because like I should have recognized that, but I was just a kid in an adult body at the time, so I wasn't really paying attention to
yeah.
very much. And as I was making that comment and getting changed, this guy walks up, and he's so happens he's wearing the same kind of uniform, same kind of not the same uniform I'm wearing, but the same kind of smart suit. And as he walks up, um, the thing is that he shot me, and he was like, what he said out words was, you should have wore the standard issue uniform, you know, basically stating that if I would have wore the brown uniform, that wouldn't have hurt, you know. So I got shot. I don't know what the heck he shot me with, but it hurt really bad.
Yeah.
But what he was thinking internally was different. um but I'm not going to go into that
So
anyways.
the next time you were asked what to wear, you wore the one that was protective and ugly.
uh well, what was funny is after that had happened, all of a sudden, like, they called all the rest of the people that were like recruits basically to come and line up. So like all these other people start coming out and lining up, and they're all wearing the same uniform I'm wearing. You
Newbie
know, and there's,
mistake.
yeah, you know, so I get shot, I get told this, and then all these other individuals show up and they're all wearing the black uniform, and I'm like, why did I get shot? Internally I'm like, why did I get shot for?
I bet they did too.
Well, they didn't even see it. They weren't even there at the time when that
I
happened.
bet it
Like,
happened to them too, though.
oh, I probably did. But it was like, so we were all lined up. And then all of a sudden, the guy that had told me about the uniforms had sat there, and he was like, all right, so and so come up to the front. So the lady that I first saw walks up to the front, and they're like, the guy's basically like, this guy that was there was like, this person has, you know, is the one who's going to train you.
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm sitting there even more embarrassed than I was a minute ago.
Yeah.
So it was just one stumble after another for me. And it was like this person, like I've met these two individuals obviously, but it's kind of funny though, like going through these memories, like there's really shitty things that happen, and then there's just like memories that are kind of like funny for me, but not for me when I was there, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are funny looking back on them now, but they weren't so funny then.
Yeah, no, they weren't. Anyways, I remember like we begin our training. I like it was just, how they train you how to go into combat and stuff like that. Um,
Which group were you with? Were you with the Americans or the Germans?
I think it was a German group.
Yeah.
There was a lot of them. Like we
Oh yeah,
basically, yeah, it was kind of weird because it's like when you said their name in German, that really hit me in that one interview.
Malzische Heimschild.
Home shield. Yeah.
Yeah, the Martian home shield is what it
Yep.
translates to. Yeah.
Yeah. So like when
Yeah,
after you said that, that kind of
I
hurt my
have
head.
to
But
actually sit there and think about, okay, what was, because my brain will translate it now. And I have to sit there and I'm like, okay, what were the real words? And how badly am I butchering this because I can't remember noun genders? Yeah. So
well, you say
yes,
it a lot better
yes,
than I do. I tend to butcher
yes,
everything that's in German.
yes, guys, I pronounce it correctly, but I have trouble with the grammar.
Like
So,
like I said, you do it better than I do. I butcher it. I've
so
had people even sit there and say, "Oh, this person butchers everything he says in German." I'm like, well,
uh-huh. I've had German people comment on my YouTube channel.
yeah,
One of them even gave me a chart of the declensions. And I went through and I go, dude, I remember the declensions. It's the gender of the noun, so I know which hole to use. And he goes, oh, English speakers don't have this problem, but almost every other European language, nouns have a gender, and it's regardless of what they actually are. And some of the words in German for women, you would think they would be feminine, but they're not. Mutter, Mädchen, those are all neuter terms, even though they're applied to women. So it's crazy language to keep it straight, and you pretty much just have to memorize it. And I have a really hard time with memorization. So we're all bad at something, and so it is what it is.
yeah. But it's like, so past that, I remember the person that trained us would lead our group, like whatever units we had, and they were pretty big size units. But we would go into these. I remember that we had this mission basically, where we went into these caves. Okay. And when we went into the caves, like the person who was our actual, who was actually in charge of us, like stayed outside of the caves.
Smart
Go figure,
people.
right? And I'm
Smart
like,
people. There are
yeah,
things in those caves, yes.
yeah. So there was like some spiders or something that we were fighting. Like they were like spiders from what I remember. And we went in there, we were
How big
fighting. We
were
got,
they?
I think they were like bigger than like bigger than us. I don't know. They were like pretty
Okay.
big, and it was like creepy. Um, but they were like everywhere, and we got attacked like in a defensive manner because we obviously were there attacking them, so they were defending themselves. I
Yeah.
don't know what they did or why we were there specifically. I'm assuming taking territory or wiping out a threat. I don't know. You know, I don't really
Training.
remember. Okay, that makes sense then. Um, but I remember like being there and we were fighting, and then like all of a sudden they started killing a bunch of us, and people started getting scared and got ready to run, and so did I. And the person that originally was training us, which I obviously was still in the process of training us, was like, no, turn around, press forward, something like along those lines. And I was like, basically was like, hell no, you know? And at that moment, I felt my life over yours was my point of view at that time. And that it's weird because it's like he was pissed because he got embarrassed, and the situation he was put in, nobody was there like, hey, don't think that way. Think this way. Understand what's really going on. Here's the lowdown of everything. Nobody ever did that for him. So like this one person that could have was like blew it off. Was like, nope, not even gonna go there, So he felt like he had no ties to this person. And he basically grabbed that person and threw her into a spider.
Ooh,
Now, mind you,
take your commanding officer and throw him into a spider. Mhm.
yeah, I don't know if it was
What
like
did
the
they do
unit.
to you?
Well, what had happened was like I took her and threw her into the spider, and then I don't know if she was our unit leader or what. I know that our commanding officer was outside, so I think she was like a unit leader of some sort. But I threw her into the spider. The spider started like, I think they were like eating her or something like that, and I didn't even stay to watch, and I just booked it with the rest of everybody else. And when we finally got outside of the caves, I think I went up to whoever our commanding officer was. I don't know if it was at that location or if we left, because we were being overran. So all I remember is eventually the commanding officer at some point was like, what happened to so-and-so? And at that time, I didn't know he had like regeneration tanks or anything like that. So I'd assumed this person was dead. So
No.
my first reaction was to lie and be like, well, I think she got eaten. And yeah.
You never lie to a commanding officer.
Yeah. So as I was sitting there lying, this person came up. So it's like I'm kind of, my memories are kind of like fuzzy on that. Like if she was eaten or she wasn't, you know what I mean? So if she was, then she probably got regenerated. But I didn't know anything about that kind of technology at the time. So it was like she walks up. I think she either punched me or shot me, one of the two. I'm not 100%, but I know that it
You
never
deserved
equated.
it.
And yeah, it never equaled out. I'll just put it that way on her end. Like she never felt like it equaled out. That was what she thought internally. But yeah,
Yeah.
so that was kind of
Were you ever bit by a spider while you were there?
at this point, I haven't had memories of it, but I'm pretty sure there's probably a possibility. I don't know.
Okay. If you don't have memories of it, it burns like you are,
Like acid.
yeah, like strong acid. It burns and it's very deadly and it doesn't burn for long because it kills you. But while it's burning, it is the most intense pain I have ever felt, worse than anything else they have ever done to me. So that's why she thought that it never evened out.
Yeah. It's like I know who this person is too, but it's like anyways, yeah, so
it's probably best, unless I've talked to another veteran and cleared it with them that this was who did it, I don't mention other people. We don't always remember the incidents the same way. And I had a commanding officer that we shared memories of the same events, but we didn't remember any of them the same way. And so I just sort of, no, we don't do that. So it makes, because we have to, this is a closed community for all practical purposes, so we have to live with each other.
mm-hmm.
And some of the folks forget that, and they make a real muck of things, and then they have to basically kiss ass and start over. So yeah, it's one of those newbie things that you learn.
Yeah. Past that anyways, so yeah, so that happened, and I think that that commanding officer got a real laugh out of that whole situation. Kind of like a dick move from my perspective, because he already knew what was about to happen, you know. Um, but I guess, you know, it is what it is, you know, you get what you deserve. So um past that, my memories jump from that to the situation that I talked about where I was at this one area and we were taking over that place, where I had mentioned, I think in one of our interviews, I think it was like the first or second one.
I tell it again because we have audience. And today we have the luxury of there's not a show behind us, so we have plenty of time.
Okay, so my memories from there jump to basically, I mean, I already mentioned this person's name, so should I just mention it or just move on from that?
Just
Doesn't-
move on.
Okay,
Tell the story without naming them.
so okay, so anyways, there was this place that we had come and set up an operation in front of, and it was in this big kind of cavity where they had this big structure that went above, like almost, I think it almost went above the cavity, not too much, but it was dug into downwards, and then like there was this thing that stuck out, and inside there, whoever these beings were that were there had built a base, you know, a living place to live.
Mhm.
And we were sent there to take it over basically. And
That happens.
yeah, so there was other super soldiers that were there, and I had this commanding officer that had like this, you know, this mustache that went down. um
He was allowed a mustache.
yeah, it was
He,
actually pretty
he, mu-
interesting.
he must have been a higher ranking officer.
Yeah, he
The lower folks are expected to stay clean shaven.
mhm. He had like what would be perceived as, I think, the handlebar mustache, because it went like this and that was it, you know. And he had jet black hair from what I remember. And we had this slave pit, this makeshift slave pit that we set up. So like if you were facing outwards from the door of this building, well, it was a stone complex basically. They were off to the left hand side. Um, and there was like this makeshift slave pen. There was a bunch of women and I think a few men that were there, and he was arguing with this one woman specifically, and they were going back and forth, and I was off in the distance, but I could still hear them. That's how loud they were screaming at each other. And he was like screaming at her and yelling, and then he got tired of yelling, marched to his right, which was the direction I was in, and marched up to me, stood in front of me, and he was like, go get this group to do what we need them to do. And I was standing there like, sir, yes, sir. And he was like, I was like, but what if they don't listen? He was like, then kill them all. And I was like, yes, sir. You know, so I'm like, you know, I'm not a heartless person. So I'm like walking over there and I'm like, how the hell am I going to deal with this? Because I don't want to kill a bunch of people, you know. But they were all humans. They were psionics. They had telepathy and a bunch of other stuff. So I walked up to them and I basically, the one that he was yelling at, I went to go speak with, and I started talking to all of them actually, not just that singular person. But they all decided unilaterally that this was the person who was going to speak on their behalf. So because she was the loudest person there. So I was like, great, So I'm sitting there and I'm like, look, we just need you to go in and use your abilities and go and do this. And, we had this kind of back and forth, and she basically, like, I think she put her hands on her hips and was like, what if I don't, because at first, like when some of the people that were in the group in that slave pen stood up and started like trying to back her, like one of them walked up and I think like she took her her hand and put it under her arm, like interlocked her arm, and was like, we're not going to do anything unless she agrees to whatever, you know what I mean? So it was along those lines. And she was like, well, what if I don't, after she started talking? And I basically told her, well, listen, look, just do what I'm telling you, please. But if you don't do it, I was ordered basically to kill all of you. Into discussion. So just do it or you're going to die. Like, just do what you're told. It's not that big of a deal,
Yeah.
So she agreed to do it. She basically, they had to like interlock like in a collective hive telepathic mind. And I think they were basically supposed to contact this group and tell them to leave peacefully, or we were going to go in and kill all of them. So she went in, she walked up and started walking up these steps, basically, or the stone walkway. And when she did, she went too far, even though she was told to by whatever group was there with us, because there was like some other dudes that were there that were like really high up, even higher than the guy that was ordering me around, and I guess they had told her that she can go move forward. And when she did, I was like, no, don't move forward, and then she disappeared. So like I went and ran after her, and like I remember like getting like ending up in like the butt end of that conversation that she was in with that group of beings. And as they were talking, like they decided to leave and evacuate. So we ended up taking over the place without bloodshed, basically.
Good.
Which was quite surprising to me because normally we would just run people over,
If
they
you
didn't.
run people over, then it destroys the buildings, and the buildings were what they were after.
Yeah, that was the main point, was to take the building, but it was like if they weren't going to leave, we would have taken it, period. So it's like that's what I'm trying to get at. It was like normally people didn't want to leave and we would have to go in and just take their shit. And I mean, sometimes I don't think that we've always won every time, but we did pretty good.
No, we haven't always won every time, but the Germans won enough times by enough margin that the other species started just acquiescing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the feelings I got from the whole situation, is they just basically were like, whatever, I mean, they weren't happy about it, but it was like,
depending on which species it was too. If it was the Mars humans, when they get wind that the Germans are coming, they'll just leave on their own, and you'll find everything's gone. Everything's just, they walked away from it all.
yeah, these were like multiple species from what I remember.
I don't remember a lot of mixed groups, but things were different by the time you got there.
Yeah, I don't even know who they were or what they were specifically. I just know that they were just different races, and it's kind of like fuzzy. So it's like, it was just weird. There's a drawing out there, but anyways, we took the place over, and I think that became like a base of operations to a certain extent. Like it became a place where we all moved in, and they had rooms and stuff set up eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at that point, like that was around the time I became an officer of some sort. And I remember getting like my own room. There was other individuals that became officers around the same time that I did. And when that happened, it was like we all got our own rooms that were separate. They were like really nice rooms. Like if you walked into the room, there was like a straightforward from the doorway, there was a bed, a really nice big bed. And then off to the left-hand side, we had like a bathroom on the left of us. And then there was like on the right-hand side, there was a place to like wash dishes and stuff. It was kind of weird, like a sink and some other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't remember if I had a window or not. But it was really kept up. like I have memories of like making sure that it was clean, like nonstop, you know?
Yeah. Well,
Um,
that's military.
yeah. And so I kept it all clean. But I remember when I first got to get to my room, uh, not like at first, but like a little bit later. And, I had become officially like some kind of officer. The other officers, there was like 3 or 4 of them that were with me. Um, one of them really hated my guts. So, and I always knew to watch out
That's
for this guy.
that's common out there.
Yeah, like I always knew to watch out for this guy. Like he really hated me. Um, and like he brought me a gift, which was this woman who was a slave. And this gift was in my room when I showed up. And he was like, "Oh, I got you a gift, because, it's a special day for you." And I could sense telepathically he wasn't being honest with me. So from
Mhm.
that point, I felt like that person that was there to spy on me. Um, so I really just
That's
severed any emotional attachment. But like my actual self, I didn't really care for slavery. It wasn't, I couldn't do anything one way or the other to stop it, no matter what position I had at that
um
point.
the the thing about out there is we're all slaves. We're all kidnapped from Earth and put through mind fracture, and then we are slave labor out there. And then the folks that didn't make the cut to become military ended up being slaves out there. And they take a lot of people from the prison system to be slaves out there. And, it's not like any of us are free.
Yeah.
Um, and I hear a lot of people complaining about, well, this faction has slaves and that faction. The truth is, they all have slaves. Every
Yeah.
single one of them out there. It's the entire economy of the SSP is slavery. And the people who are saying, well, my faction doesn't do that, they're, pardon my French, but they're full of shit. Everybody's doing it. So it has to be stopped from Earth because you're not going to get it stopped from there. So,
Can't argue with that.
yeah, I've heard people say, well, the Germans, and I'm looking at them and going, the cyborg factories all belong to ICC. Those are the ones where they capture people on Earth and turn them into robots with a little bit of a human brain inside, so that soul is trapped in that machine for the next 600 years. Those are ICC. And you're saying the Germans are the ones doing slavery. I see. So my point of view, they're all doing it. So it's the pot calling the kettle black.
Yep. Anyways, beyond that whole situation, this woman,
Yeah, beyond that mess.
yeah, like this woman, like she wasn't rude or anything to me, and like
Yeah.
I try to keep my distance because of the fact of who gave her to me to begin with, and I was just like, look, here's the ground rules. Just keep the place clean, even though I already made sure it was clean anyway. So I was like, just keep the place clean, stay in the room, don't go anywhere unless you're allowed to, and you'll be fine. I won't even, it's like do whatever you're gonna do, you know. And at that point, like I remember like I would leave, and at the point where I left off before, I didn't know what I was doing. But now I've had more memories come back. So it was like
Okay.
what I did basically was, I guess, highly classified stuff. And what it based around is that I had my own office. I had a secretary that worked in the office. I've met this person too now. And um, what they would do is they had this separate room that I would go into, and they would bring different humans Sometimes I think there were a few aliens, but it was mainly humans for the most part. And it was like this black room that I would walk into, and there would be a person or another being that would be sitting in this chair that would be basically strapped down. And my job was to go and interrogate them telepathically.
Okay.
So I would have to go into their mind. Now, if I couldn't get into their mind enough, then I would go towards rudimentary tools, which would be like cutting them, and just basically hurting them until they had enough pain to where I could break into their mind telepathically, and get them to focus on the pain of their body, which takes them away from their mind to defend itself.
Mhm.
I don't have to do that often, but I do remember. I think I did it actually a lot. Never mind. Let me rephrase that. I've done it a lot. And there's this one individual, and two individuals actually, but it was one at a time. They had done something, and they thought that they were traitors, and they didn't know, and they wanted to find out who they were working for.
Well, since all of us out there have alters, it's pretty much guaranteed you have somebody in your head that's working for somebody else.
Yeah. But I knew them. They were people that trained me to begin with,
Mhm.
and they knew me. And it was pretty rough, because the people that were over me, that were in charge of the situation, that they would order me what to do and stuff like that. When I walked in the room, they knew me by this one person specifically knew me by name.
Mhm.
And, he was like, what do you do? What's going on here? And I tried to tell him just to tell me everything, you know, because I had kind of an emotional connection in a sense at that time with
Mhm.
this individual. And I was like, just tell me everything. What have they been at, and it got to the point he was like, I don't know what he didn't know what they wanted to know. And they were like, start interrogating him. The beings that I was working for were like, interrogate him. They weren't humans either.
Mhm.
They were some kind of reptilian. Not 100% sure, because like they mainly stick it into the shadow areas. I can't really see their face specifically.
Yeah.
So I started interrogating him, and I kept stopping because because I knew that he was telling the truth. He didn't know what they were trying to look for. He had no clue. This person had nothing to do with what they thought he was doing. Basically, the situation is, from what I can recall, is whoever they were working for were dicks, and they didn't give a fuck. They basically were like, fuck you, and tore some shit up. And, I feel like they were in the right, personally, coming from my perspective, but that wasn't good enough for them. Um, so
If they were reptilian, they had better psi abilities than you did. They should have interrogated him themselves.
yeah, that's why I don't even understand the whole situation to begin with. It's just weird, because I just have these memories where I would do interrogations, and
There's a situation that my alter that's out there right now is involved with, and I finally just got so tired of the bickering that I took a junior Draco, not one of the alphas that hurts people, but one of the worker Draco, and said, if I'm having trouble with someone, I want you to check their mind and see what's in there so that I know what I'm dealing with. And that anytime that there were accusations, we had that worker Draco go through the people's minds so that we had a unbiased witness, because people see things differently. And they might think that somebody had it out to get them and they didn't. They might think that somebody betrayed them and it was just thoughtlessness. And so when you have an unbiased person being doing this, someone with enough psi abilities to be able to walk in and walk out with the information, it's not as intrusive as a human having to torture you to get the information. So I thought that was a much better solution than what I had seen going on around me. And apparently Overcommando, my command, has decided that that's a better way. So hopefully there won't be situations like you were put in happen again.
Yeah. But it was like, so
Us having to torture our own, that's just wrong.
yeah. So it was like I had to deal with that situation, and I kept telling him that he didn't know anything that they were looking for. Like
Mhm.
that wasn't the case, but they didn't believe me. Like they were like, no, go back and go back and keep doing what you're supposed to do. So I ended up having to physically torture this person because I couldn't get in through his block. He had like this kind of boundary that I couldn't get past, this firewall, I guess you could say.
Or an altar boundary.
I don't know. I'm not 100% on what it was. Maybe it was that. I have no idea. But
Yeah.
he was pissed, and he was like, fuck you. I'm not saying shit anymore, and I understood why he was doing it at that point because I knew that he was telling the truth,
Mhm.
but they didn't care. So they basically made me physically torture this person. And yeah, so I started physically torturing this person until his mind broke down and I could get into his mind. And I was right. He didn't it wasn't anything like that. It was just they were being dicks and they decided, hey, you want to be dicks, we're just going to kill everybody. And they did it because they just didn't want to put up with their bullshit. The people that they were working with, whoever that group was, I just know that basically that group wasn't treating them the right way, so they killed them. And after that, I think I tortured the other person too. I don't have too much memory. I just know that I did. I just don't have the full-on memories of that situation.
It's probably better for you if you don't remember all the details.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned to an interviewer this past week, it's a nightmare you can never wake up from. So some of it you're better off not remembering.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, after that, like how I told you about the how I would when I went back to my room, like that's when this whole situation started unfolding for me where I couldn't deal with it anymore. Because I had been doing it for a while and it was already bad enough, but then I had to torture people that I knew,
Yeah.
from when I started in this stuff. And uh, I would come like in the process of doing all that, I would go back to my room later, like after I was basically off the clock or whatever the hell you would call it.
Yeah.
And first what happened is I ignored this woman that was in my room. I treated her nice. I didn't treat her like shit. I just was like, I had no real emotional connection because I felt that she was spying on me to begin with. So, I wouldn't talk to her about anything. And she would be like, how did your day go? And I'm like, I can't talk about that.
Well, you couldn't.
Yeah. So then she wanted to have sexual interactions with me, and I basically buffered it away. And that's when she thought maybe I was gay, you know. So she brought this private in, and I knew he was a private. I know I haven't met this person in the here and now yet, but like I knew he was a private, and he knew my ranking and my position, and she brought him in, and this was a friend of hers, I guess, somehow. I don't know how she was friends with this person. And you know, she thought maybe I wanted her to watch and that I was into that. And I was like, no. And I was like, get the fuck out of my room, you know. And he was, you know, this private was like, he kind of bucked against it a little bit. And I was like, you know, I basically pulled rank and I was like, listen, private, get out of my room, you know. And he left the room, and that was that for me. You know, I was just like, and I just turned around. I was like, don't ever fucking do that again. You know what I mean? Like, don't ever do that again. That's not how I conduct myself. And she was like, well, I was like, no, it's like, don't ever do that again, you know. And she started sitting down. She like broke down in tears, and she's like, I'll just go back to where I was at. And, you know, basically started crying. And I'm like, I felt bad at that point. I was like, no, it's not even about that. Like, calm down, you know. And I tried to comfort her. And then she was like, I don't understand, you know. And I was like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like at that point, I started like breaking down a little, and I tried to have some kind of emotional connection with this person. And I just explained to her, you know, like, I don't even know you. So like, we have nothing in common at this point, you know? And she was like, well, you know, she basically talked me into talking to her, you know. And the way that began was I would sit down and then lay my head in her lap when she was sitting on her bed, and I would just start bawling my eyes out.
That kind of job would do that.
And, you know, she just sat there and just ran her hands through my hair, you know, and I would just cry. Now, on top of that, I had my office that I would go into, and, you know, there was a woman that I have met in real time. She remembers me, and I know her from that position. And I think she would do filing and stuff. She would do like secretary work there.
Yeah, I've had probably 5 people in the community tell me that they knew you from different factions out there. So, you know, and not everybody out there speaks to me. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I learned the hard way not to name people and not to get into fights, because you have to live with these people. So yeah, yeah, the job that you're describing is what's called intuitive empath in Solar Warden. So there are folks out there who are claiming that job title. That's what they did, was they tortured people or extraterrestrials while interrogating them with telepathy. So that's what the job is. And you know, we've had people ask them, well, what did you do? And they don't want to admit that's what they did. They want to present as all love and light, but the job description is anything but. And the people that do it, you come out damaged. You can't help it, because you're linked in that person's mind and you feel everything you've done to them. That's not easy.
Yeah.
You know, and it can't help but damage you. So yeah, I can completely understand you crying. So
Um,
my job on Mars was to fly a ship and look for raptor nests, which are the native reptilian sentient life form, look for raptor nests, and look for human remains, because I was supposed to bring them back for regeneration. So that's not exactly a fun job either. I don't think anybody there had a fun job.
Nope. But yeah, so it was like I broke down and started telling this woman eventually, what I was doing. And in the middle of all that situation, like I said, I had the secretary and that would file away documents and stuff. And the reason why I didn't really emotionally connect to this woman who was a slave was because I was emotionally connected to the secretary, this woman that I knew
Okay.
that worked in my office. And, we had somewhat of a relationship, you know what I mean? And, she helped me through a lot of stuff emotionally, but I never really broke down in front of her too much. I mainly kept it professional to a certain extent, even though we had this connection that we were going on with. And it
So
was
you
like,
compartmentalized it.
yes, that would be the perfect word. Yeah, I compartmentalized my emotions around her when it came to what I was going through. Whereas with the woman that lived with me that was a slave, for some reason, because I kept crying in her arm, crying basically in her lap, like, I just felt like it was kind of like a motherly figure, I guess I could say.
Okay.
And I just started telling her stuff. And I think I cracked her mentally because, you know, even though I was doing these things, I was explaining what I was doing to people. And she wasn't set up for stuff like that. So like
Not many are.
she basically like zoned out most of the time. But she was listening, and the person that was my commanding officer still, like I still had a guy that was above me, which was the guy with the mustache. I guess he, from what I've come to realize now, is from the other person that I've talked to, that person went to that person to try to get her to basically snitch on me, like tell what I was doing, if I was saying anything, if I was divulging any information to her. And she decided not to work for this person.
Good.
And yeah, she ended up paying for that later. But
When you stand up for what's right, you usually do end up paying for it.
yeah, so eventually,
I mean, that sounds cliche. I've lost 5 people that I cared about since I've been public, and they were all murdered in different ways because I was talking. So you stand up for what's right, and there is a price to pay, and it may not be you that pays it. It may be people you care about instead.
yeah, um, but yeah, so
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
so it's okay.
It's just, that's one of the things that has bugged me a lot this year. Was I had 2 of them right after Christmas this last year, and so we're coming up to that time again, and it's like anniversaries.
Yeah, well, it's like the guy that when I first did my first interview was Zan John. I mentioned a guy saw me get picked up by those naval intelligence officers, or they weren't officers, I don't know for like 100%, but basically I just know that they were naval intelligence. They were the ones that were training me when I was a kid. And I didn't mention his name. I just mentioned that this person lived across the street from me where I lived. And mind you, he didn't even live there anymore. But, you know, after that interview, like 2 weeks after that interview, he ended up being found dead, and they still haven't stated at all how he died. And
You get it.
yeah, and
Yeah, you get it. When I've talked about this in the past, I get, well, it may not have been related to you, but it comes together when you get a threat and names are named, and then those people end up dead, and nobody is ever charged.
yeah. Well, I mean, what was weird, I didn't even say his name. I just said
Yeah.
where he lived. And all he did was he saw something at the wrong time and wrong place. He was there at the wrong place, wrong time, basically. And he had brought it up to me when I was a kid, and I automatically, I think I had an alter that just kicked in, and I just lied to him. I had no control over it. I was just like, oh, they was just friends of the family.
Yeah.
And he was like, your parents let these people talk to you and hit you like that? Because he had hit me in the back of my head after we got over the fence. That was before he kicked my ass. That was after he kicked my ass when we were on the other side of the fence for not obeying orders. The instructor that I had, but he yeah.
Yeah, the stuff they do to us
And
is not pleasant.
it's like my sister
And
was staying with me when I started bringing it up to her, because I started talking about my memories with her, and she has an alter too. He's never come out in front of me, but he comes out if she feels threatened, and it's actually a male alter, which is kind of creepy. But yeah.
The alters are broken parts of your mind, and they are not always the same gender as the body.
Yeah.
And most of the people I have done counseling with, because they'll come to me with all these stories, and it's, well, they'll talk to me for a while, and then they'll talk to me about, well, I have this one person that comes up, and it's not the same gender. And I go, well, it's really very common amongst us.
It was like at that time I didn't know he was dead at that time. So she had him, I think, on her Facebook or something, and remembered his whole name. So I kept going, hey, for like a week or two, I was like, hey, see if this person's still alive, because he could verify what I was talking about, which I think that's probably why he got killed. Mainly because I wanted to see if he would be willing to at least verify that I was telling the truth, And it took her a while, and she basically treaded her feet on the situation. And then the day after, I guess, they had his funeral, she ended up finally going to look for him, and it was like a day after. And she basically she was like, oh, fuck, like she realized I wasn't.
Gee.
Yeah, she found out he was dead, and that his funeral was the day before. And she packed her shit and took her kids and moved. So I had to deal with all that.
Did she break contact with you?
Yep.
Yeah, I've had people, they thought that I was bullshitting, and when they realized I wasn't, they broke contact, up and moved. It's like they think that if they break contact with me, that nobody's going to track them. I'm sorry, these people, if they want you, they know where you are. You can't escape today. Maybe 50 years ago you could, before everything was electronic, but nowadays, nah, you got a trail.
Yeah, it's like most people that know me already have heard some of the interviews I've done. So it's like, I don't know, it tends to freak people out. Like my mom, for instance, she didn't believe me, like I said at first, until I text her one day, and because I heard somebody cough, and I knew it wasn't my mom, and I knew it wasn't me, and there was nobody else around either one of us. And I was like, I text her and I was like, I'm going to hang up, just don't hang up, and she got the text, and then I was like, all right, mom, love you, bye. And then she stayed on the phone, and I did too. And then I heard click, like somebody hung up some old phone. I'm like, you know, and she was
Yeah.
like, what the? I was like, I told you.
Yeah. Some of my early interviews, there would be this bar across the bottom of the screen, and it would be like orange and static, and you would hear it clicking, and it was almost like insects talking.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of stuff that happens, and you tell people about it, and it's, oh, you're just imagining things. When I did my first interview, not a lot of people saw it. But the second one I did with James Rank, and that was when I got the threats from the CIA. And it wasn't long after that that my son and my nephew came and did a sanity check on me. I don't know about where you live, but in California, 2 blood relatives can do a forced commitment to a mental institution. And they came like that they were just going to do a visit with mom, auntie. And then my son stands up and says, well, you're obviously delusional, but it's a stable delusion, and I think you're safe to be out of the hospital. And I'm like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? So yeah, I was 60 years old. I'm not crazy. I know the difference between reality and fantasy, and I'm talking memories of real events. I'm not making shit up. I'm not
Mhm.
playing a game. I'm telling the same story now that I was then. So, you know, people
Yeah.
need,
Well, it's like I'm 33.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, we're not in dementia.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
I gotta be honest, it's crazy for me because it's like I remember like all these different alters, and it's like they're different people than the
yeah,
other alters. And like
yeah. They're
most of my alters that I remember are pretty evil from my perspective. You know, they don't have the emotion, or not, I wouldn't say the emotion, but the moral upbringing that I have. And I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, but
um I don't know what you would call her, my higher self or what.
mhm,
Yes, guys, I do know the terminology. But when I started doing alter reintegration, my higher self told me to always make sure that Penny from Earth stayed dominant, because that was the only alter that had an ethical compass. That, in her words, the CIA doesn't teach right from wrong. So that's an important factor that folks need to keep in mind, is when we're talking about the behavior of alters in Black Ops, those personalities were never taught right from wrong. So we are exposing the Black Ops and the actions being taken there. And to hold the person on Earth who has an ethical compass responsible for the actions of their alter is unreasonable and cruel. And there's a lot of folks that are going to get upset about that. But yeah, it's still the truth, whether people want to believe it or not. Reintegration of alters is very difficult. The standard medical practice will tell you that they have techniques to do it, but in practice they don't work. I've been using Native American shamanic soul fragment retrieval, and following that up with Jungian shadow work, because once I do get basically the two bits to work together and start merging into one, then I have to deal with my conscience reacting to what this altar has done. And it takes a while to process that. And in the meantime, sometimes I'm a real bitch, because that hurts. You know, that part of you has done these things, and you're reintegrating that part, which means it's become part of you. And even though I, Penny, here now, did not do those things, I have the memory of doing them. And that's hard to live with, especially when you start reintegrating more and more and more altars. I've reintegrated 32 of them now. And half of them just stored the trauma that created them. So I'm still looking at, what, 16 people's worth of crimes. So yeah, there it is, that I sit here and tears are running down my face all day. Fortunately, I've not had that happen on camera, at least not for a long time. I remember some of the early interviews, I would have tears running the whole time I was on camera. I couldn't stop them. But, you know, I'm seeing you on the verge of tears in this one, and it's people who have not been there don't understand. And we have too many people in our community who think it's a game. They don't have any real memories, and so they're basically making it up as they go. And for the audience out there, the real ones, you see the pain in his eyes. You feel the emotions. We're not having fun at this. We're sharing this because we want this shit stopped, not because we're glorying in it. And anybody who is glorying in it, they're either a fake or they're a really sick puppy. And I don't know which would be worse. So
I try to disassociate and laugh sometimes, because like it's either that or I'm just gonna cry, you know. And why sometimes in some other interviews I normally just start laughing, you know, when I say certain things, you know, but it's like, it's because, you know, I can't deal with it. But
you go click, you don't feel it, and until you click back into feeling, and then it's like overload. All of the stuff that you set aside is suddenly plopped. So I can go through a 2 to 4 hour show, and then at the end, I'm completely drained, and I literally go sleep for the next 6 hours because I'm completely drained. I do an interview where I'm being talked to, you know, where I'm the one that's being interviewed, and I might spend the whole next day sleeping because I'm that fried. And I don't know how some of these people do it. I really don't. They go through, they do an interview every day, and I'm like, they must be talking about things that don't touch them emotionally.
Yeah, it's like when after my interviews I have to wait a few, you know, just go and calm down. Normally I don't go to sleep that often. It just depends. Like I think the one interview we did where I started, where I, you know, I let my alters come out and stuff. instead of keeping them in
Oh,
check
you had one
that
where
one.
your alter came out and did the interview.
Yeah,
And mine came out and met him.
yeah.
So
And that,
we
like,
got a good we got a good interview though.
after that interview, I got like really tired, and that really like, I don't know, messed with me a little, but you know, I felt that that altar deserved to be put in his place anyways, because like I could feel him scratching in the background, like, hey, like, let me talk. I'm like, okay, you want to get put in your place? Got it.
Did I put
You
you
know,
in your place? Oh my God.
like he just, I don't think he quite understood things. Anyways, yeah, so
Yes,
yeah,
that's something that folks don't understand either, is some of these alters really don't understand anything. They're only trained for their job and they really don't understand anything else.
yeah, it's like I know that the altar that I'm talking about, or I don't even know if I don't know if I can say it's an altar or not, because like I remember being myself as a kid. I think I was just basically threatened and abused into obeying, but I'm not 100%, because it's like I don't remember any of my other alters remembering myself as a kid, at this point, obviously.
Um, I don't have any memories from before I was 4.
Yeah.
That was when I was taken initially for mind fracture, and they mind wiped me at the beginning, and I have no memories at all from before then. And that first alter who served on Mars in, as in the Valkyrie unit, she is the one who remembers being at Langley and Montauk. The others don't.
Mhm.
So different alters have different memories, and as you reintegrate the alter, you will get the memories. And I still have lots of missing time. I have no idea. I get up, I know I got up, and I sit down in front of the computer. I go on Facebook. I'm drinking coffee, and I realize 2-3 hours have passed. I have no idea what I did. I have to go back through and see what I did. I tell Lou, good morning, even if it's 6 p.m. It's good morning. And I can feel him go, and I have no idea how bad that altar was. I have no idea what she did to him, that he's so relieved that I'm back. I can be a stinker. So, I'm thinking, what the hell is that altar like? But
Well, it's like,
I think I'm better off not knowing.
yeah, it's like I've been doing a lot of work with I think his name's Stefan Popiotek. I don't know if you know who that is.
No,
Yeah, but he like,
I've been working with Susan Love and with Sean Bond, and the man I live with is my shaman.
mhm.
So when we go into trance together, yes, folks, we can do a telepathic link between the two of us and go into the same trance. And so if a altar comes up and it's not actually me, he sends it away. So this is the importance of doing this with someone who cares about you, because not all the things that come up are actually you.
Yeah, I think like he can pull out all sorts of crazy stuff. Like the way that he does his stuff, like you just talk about what you want to, you start remembering some of the memories that you already have, and he will just jump with it. And like he knows exactly what's going on, who you were, like he's given me some of my own names, and it's pretty wild, and like just different places I've served on, and quite interesting. I haven't gone into the shamanic trances yet. But it's like,
You
you have
need
to
to
get your,
go with someone you trust.
yeah, for
It's,
sure.
you don't go with some hippie chick that had a weekend seminar. No, you
Yeah,
go
no,
with
no.
somebody that's real. My partner, um, his grandma was Iroquois and was a residential school survivor. And she was training him to be a shaman, and he ended up in Vietnam, and she didn't make it too much longer after he came back. So his training wasn't complete, but he's complete enough to help me, and I'm grateful. I could not have done this without him. And Sean Bond is the one that, well, both of them, Susan and Sean, both are the kind that you have to grant them permission each and every time, or they don't read you. You know, they don't do anything. They're just completely, what you see is what you get until you give consent. And then they read you. And both of them are powerful enough. I don't have to drop my shields. And that matters because I've had so many attacks from so many people that the shielding is really important. And I have layers of mirrored shielding behind something that basically looks like a tornado. But I've had people that could just walk through like there was nothing there and take up residence in my astral field and my energy field, and they're sitting there trashing the place, and you know, there's nothing I can do about it because they're more powerful than I am. Yes, there are such people. No matter how good you are, there's always somebody better.
Yeah,
So,
I think I said that in our first interview.
yeah, there's always somebody better. And so, you know, every time that I start to think maybe I'm good at this, I'm like, okay, I got visited again. Okay. Back
But
to humility.
yeah, I think like the Draco, from my interactions, other than the mantids, like the Draco are pretty prevalent when it comes to telepathy, quite
Well,
efficiently, I might
I've
add.
had mantids, Draco, Jahami, who are the royals of the Anunnaki. I had angelics. And then there's a group, technically they're part of the Illuminati. And they've been keeping an eye on me. Yeah, I learned too much about them, and I opened my mouth too much, and so now it's like, you can go up to this point and no further. And I've been trying to go and no further.
Well, it's like anytime I'm around somebody who, from what I've learned, if I'm around somebody else who's a super soldier, that person will get abducted, and they will try to find out why they're around me, what they want, what their intention is, who they are, why they're there, you know, all sorts of shit. And it's weird
Well,
because it's
we're going
like,
to be going to a conference together. And in the past, there have been abductions at night at these conferences. That's one of the things when I was first public that both James and Misha talked to me about, was they had gone to some conference together, and everybody in there was abducted and woke up the next morning with marks all over themselves from the abductions. So
Mhm.
uh, that's something I hope does not happen.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, and it's weird because like I remember most of it from other timelines, and I remembered like when that circumstance happened, I remember that it was going to happen, and it did happen, which was quite awkward, you know.
Yeah.
Gotta love that. But not
Well, that's
only
what happens with the real ones.
yeah, not only did I remember it, like the person who was there, which I'm not going to name them either, but there was a different person that was there on the ship that did the interrogation work with the equipment, and like that person got her memories activated. So, and I got to, talk to that person and she remembers what I was talking about. So that was awkward. Um,
Well, it's always nice when you get verification. There are about 20 people who remember me, and I remember about 5 of them. So there's a network of us who remember each other, and it's not always mutual,
yeah,
but there's enough of a web to it that you can kind of figure out who has worked together.
mhm.
Uh,
But anyways, beyond all that, I'll just go back to what I was doing. So
okay, I'm sorry, I'm like spacing on you, but
it's okay.
I
It's all
figured we
good.
got time. We can make this a real conversation.
Yeah, I mean, hey, this is just stuff that happens along the way anyway. So
Yeah,
it's not like we're talking about nothing. Like this is real stuff that happens. So
yeah, this is real stuff that happens.
um, what was it? It was so yeah. So in the process of being with that woman and like crying and telling her stuff, like I said before, eventually this the individual that originally gave her to me as a gift shows up. Okay, and right when it was happening, I was about to get arrested, basically. And I looked over her and I was like, "You fucking bitch!" Literally, I was like, "You fucking bitch!" And she was like, "What? No, I didn't say anything. I swear." And I was like, because I wanted to kill her. I was like, "Kill you," you know. And he was like, the guy that gifted her to me was like, "Oh no, it wasn't her. She never said a word." And then they brought in that private, the gay private that I was talking about. They brought him in, and he had just a grin ear to ear, you know, on his face, and he was proud of himself. And he basically was. I'd surmise that she didn't know how to deal with it, and probably was talking to him, thinking that he was her friend. And he basically snitched her ass the fuck out and snitched me out in the process, probably for a higher position, I would assume. Um,
Well, the
and
Germans are not always rewarding snitches.
yeah, and I don't know if he got rewarded. I just know that that was probably his intent because that's what I got
It's
emotionally from
probably
him.
his intent, but he didn't necessarily, because
Yeah. So
loyalty matters to the Germans.
yeah, and it was like I got arrested. After I had gotten arrested, I believe I was tortured in the same room that I would do the torturing. And they found out that I was just breaking down mentally and just started talking to this woman. And it's weird because this woman, I haven't talked to her, but she tried to friend request me a while back and then receded the friend request. But I saw her photo and I was like, holy shit, you know?
Uh-huh.
And I was like,
I did a
whoa.
few of those. The ones I recognize from the Black Ops, I will talk to them. Um, I don't necessarily accept their friend requests. Um, I've taken up doing this thing anyway. Somebody that looks like a decent person I'll send them a private message, and I'll say, you seem like a nice person. Why do you want to be my friend? Yeah. Don't you know I'm weird and dangerous? It's dangerous to know me. Depending
Yeah,
on what they say after that, whether I accept their friend request. I've had them say, no, I didn't know you were dangerous. Thank you. Bye. Click. Block. Yeah.
yeah. I've come to the conclusion
Huh?
that's a smart move moving forward. Is because before I would just accept people's friend requests. Now I'm like, maybe I should, be like, well, hit them up on Messenger and be like, well, who are you and why do you want to be my friend? I don't understand. Do I know
Oh,
you? Like,
I'm not even giving him a hard time. It's just,
yeah,
you seem like a nice person. Why would you want to be friends with me?
but
This is truth in packaging, right?
yeah. So it's
I
like,
mean, I have it right on my wall. I'm a dissident. I'm the person your mother warned you about. I mean, if that doesn't say it, I don't know.
well, it's like like most of the people that are on my Facebook are like family. I have my family on that Facebook. So like, I normally don't.
So do I.
Yeah,
My
I
kids, my brother, cousins, and I have sisters on Facebook who can see my public posts, and I'm on there, and I have some asshole tell me that I'm demon possessed and damned to hell, and I'm like, oh my God.
I think I'm gonna set up like a separate Facebook channel. That way I can actually post and like, you know, post videos and stuff. Cause normally like I don't post anything really on mine other than maybe like if I do a few fun Photoshops for just for fun to work on how Photoshop works and stuff. I'll post those randomly. And I've only done it like for 2 of them. But it's like past that, I don't really post anything on mine other than like, just words of wisdom or, things like that, or just sometimes
Um,
I'll post some funny stuff like stuff that people can laugh at. But
I have been a truther since Watergate. And that's long before you were born. And that's what I was doing when the NSA approached me. And yeah.
I'm wondering if that has a major connection for us all because I've noticed that a lot of us like talk about stuff like that, and then all of a sudden all these memories just start flooding through.
No, I was deliberately activated by
Well,
the NSA
for
unit.
you,
And
yeah, I mean,
as far as I know, I'm the only one that has happened to. I'm also the only one of us who has been verified by the data entry clerk who uploaded my file.
yeah,
So she also verified Andy Bajago.
yeah.
So,
My main thing is like people that go and don't accept the narrative. I find that a lot of us that are real, we don't accept the narrative and we go look elsewhere for the truth.
Well, I
And
think that's why we're remembering is because we're not accepting the narrative.
yeah,
So the memory, when the memories start to bubble up, we don't just write it off as a nightmare. We're going, okay, this keeps bubbling up. What the hell is this? I had nightmares for literally decades of, God, this is going to sound bad. It was an ugly little blonde girl with hair that stuck out every which way, skinny, and just there would be a woman like a nurse open a cabinet door, and this ugly little kid would go into the wall and crawl around in the wall and come out a different cabinet door. I had that as a nightmare. I would wake up screaming for literally decades.
Yeah,
The
when I was
real memory was from Langley, and they had a section of the wall that had been cleared out, and they would put me in there and nail a board over it and let me suffocate. That was what the real memory was, that was trying to bubble up.
yeah, like when I was around, I think
Huh?
between seven,
Daryl was saying something. What? Daryl?
I don't
I
think he's
guess
in his
not.
chair. Um, yeah, when I was around like 7 or 8, I kept having this reoccurring memory of basically every time I would go to sleep, I would be chased in my front yard, like because I was on a big property. Like I would be chased by this guy with a knife,
Mm.
and every time he caught me, he would stab me. And I would always be running. And then one time I didn't, like I was running and I just turned around and started fighting back, which threw this person off.
Mm.
He was like, "Oh shit, what?" Like it tripped him out when I started fighting back. So I don't know if it was a dream or if it was a memory of some sort, if it was some form of training. I don't know what it was, but it was continuous day and night. Like every time I would lay my head down and go to sleep, that's what I would remember. And
Mhm.
I don't know what the hell that was from, you know?
For decades, every Friday night, I would dream that I was a mermaid in a kelp bed. And when I realized that that was a cover memory, years ago, I learned self-hypnosis.
Mhm.
So when I would come up with what was an unrealistic memory, like being a mermaid, obviously I'm not one, I would go into self-hypnosis, examine that, and I would tell myself, open the curtains and let me see what really happened. And I would literally get a visual of that scene opening up and then see what really happened. And I think a lot of the folks in our community are failing to do that, that they're just accepting that cover memory as if it were real.
Mhm.
And I think that's an important thing that we need to be doing.
Yeah, it's like past that was the only thing I would dream about for a long time. And then I think it was like once I went into space and came back, my mind wouldn't allow me to dream anymore. Basically, everything's pitch black and still is, other than like recently, I've had maybe like one or two what are kind of dreams of some sort. I know there's something that it seems like a cover memory, basically. I just don't know what the hell it deals with, but they've been pretty off the wall and not normal, you know? Um,
Since my memories were activated, I have to take something to actually sleep. Otherwise, I'm laying there lucid.
mhm,
And it's like you go too long lucid and you start hallucinating.
mhm.
So I make sure that I take something to sleep with so that I'm not in that situation.
Yeah, well, it's like like how I've explained it before, like whoever that little boy is that's sitting at that bus stop. I know in other timelines I've gone up and like I've gone into that memory and sat down with him to try to talk to him, but he doesn't speak and he just starts screaming. If I get him to interact with me, and like he doesn't have a voice, he
Is
just
he
screams.
you?
I'd assume from what I remember, I think that is the case, that is me. And I've talked to somebody else, and they said that basically they're like kind of like a gatekeeper for whatever memory is trying to surface. Um,
Yeah, we have lots of things like that.
so like I don't know what it is, but then there's that little girl, and I'm like, I don't even know who the heck this little girl is, you know?
I have
But
a gatekeeper on my altars. Um, not this past July, but the year before. Um, Eric Hecker had Lou and I come to his house, and he paid for the trip because he wanted me to see his documents so he didn't have to put a social security number out on the public,
Mhm.
which it sounds reasonable. But he has this extensive library, and one of the books that he had was by Saint Germain, the Most Holy Trina Sophia. Well, it's an initiation ritual that's supposed to connect you to your higher self. And because I have so many altars, it doesn't work right on me.
Mhm.
So I kept shifting from the point I read it. I kept shifting altars like I was on a Rolodex, and finally it was February, I think, February this year. So it was months. Finally in February, I had this vision of this man appear and explain what was going on and ask me what I wanted to do. And I said, I wanted to reintegrate the altars and keep the memories. And he said, okay. And I stopped having as much trouble with shifting altars. I mean, if you watched my interviews, January, I was going 20 altars or more every interview. I was just shifting. And some of them were children. I had an altar that was apparently a 9-year-old girl that was just scared of everything, and she would come and talk for 15 minutes and then leave and everything would be fine again. Like, I was watching the videos to know what I said because the public that holds me accountable for what comes out of my mouth. Yeah. You've got that look on your face. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. You watched the interview, so you know what you said. And I would watch that and just cringe. But, you know,
I have the luck of remembering everything that I said. And I'm just
uh,
like, damn it. Like,
yeah, well, I don't. So I have to watch the videos to know what I said,
I
and
I know
I would be mortified. Some of the things that these altars would decide needed to be said.
I know I have an altar that I don't remember things from. And when he comes out, people end up hurt. And
Mm.
like I just black out. And like it takes a lot. Like the only person who's ever been able to break me out of that trance, that whatever I'm in, whatever that altar is my wife. And that's only because she's calling my name. And it's like it's hard to fight to the surface. I feel like I'm swimming in the bottom of an ocean, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but I have to focus and hone in on her voice, and then I'm able to take back over and like see what's going on. The last time that that
You're
happened,
lucky she can do that.
yeah, the last time that that happened, there was me and this kid. It was we went to Job Corps together, and we were slap boxing, shadow boxing, playing around,
Mhm.
So I went to go kick him, just playing around. I wasn't really going to kick him, and I ended up kicking him in the balls by accident. And I felt bad. I was like, "Oh man, I'm sorry," And he's like, he went to go try to slap me, and I like backed up, because he wanted to hit me back, and um, he ended up kicking me in the balls, even though I was sitting there apologizing to him. And when he did that, I blacked out and I beat the shit out of him. I got him on the ground and I was standing over him, and I basically started stomping on his chest. And like, this is what I was told that I did. Like, I didn't even remember any of it. This is just what everybody else that was in the room started telling me that I was doing. And by the time I got done, I was stepping on his throat and his face was turning black and blue. And that's when I heard my wife's voice, and like I came to, and like he couldn't even breathe. And they were like, "Get your foot off his neck." And I'm like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
I think that like I
He's
stomped on his
right.
chest. from what I was told is once I got him on the ground, I stomped on his chest a few times, and then I punched him in the face a few times, and then I started stepping on his throat.
Well, I know that I reach a point of rage. And if I don't step away, I will lose control. When I was younger and healthier, I used to take a baseball bat to a tree stump. You could hear it for a whole block. People would come out, what the hell is that? But it would release the rage where I didn't do anyone any harm.
Yeah, it was,
And
from what I was told,
that was an important thing, especially when I was a single mom.
yeah,
Kids will drive you to the wall. And if you're alone with them, it's just not safe to be that easily triggered.
mhm. Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's just weird. And I guess I just kept repeating, I apologized. What the fuck did you do that for? I apologize. Why I'm beating this poor kid, you know? I'm like, I apologize, you know, but I mean, he was around the same, a little younger than me a little bit, you know, because this is
Mhm.
like when I was around high school age, you know, so it was like, I don't know. That's just what he kept saying. I apologize. Why'd you kick me? You know? And even after that, I felt even worse. It's like I busted his lip and like, I don't know. It was horrible. It's a horrible situation. But yeah, normally that altar, whatever he is or whoever he is, he doesn't come out unless somebody's attacking me. Once that happens, it's on.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't play around.
You know what worries me? When I was first dealing with the memories before I was even public, there was a video on YouTube, and I haven't been able to find it. And it was this, it was this hellfire and brimstone kind of Christian woman. And she had heard about super soldiers. And she had decided that we were a standing army waiting for a word to be given and that we would attack everybody else like mindless drones. And the more I realize what some of my altars are like, the more that worries me.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, you can't live with this day in and day out and not take that seriously.
See, I always thought it was just rage based for me, but now it's like it's making better sense, you know, that, you know, like I think it was mainly like when you talked about, you know, when certain altars come to surface, you black out, you know what I mean? And you lose track of time and all that other stuff, you know what I mean? Like
I'm not even there.
yeah,
I'm gone. And when I come back, it's like this big blank. I had no idea what I did.
yeah. And it's, I don't know, because I have memories of being trained by tons of different groups, you know,
Mhm.
just little blotches of memories of just different training things, you know, like driving on a racetrack, learning how to, you know, use evasive driving with a vehicle, you know,
Mhm.
um, I like, and having to repeatedly do
Evasive
it.
evasive driving with a plane.
Yeah, like it was like with that one, it was, and the guy was there, he was real, and he was like, we're gonna keep doing this until you get it. And every time I failed, we would revert time, like time would go back, and I would be back in the freaking car, and he would be back in the shotgun, riding shotgun with me. And basically in that, I had to do the shit where I had to drive and then get out of the car and open fire on whatever this thing was to learn the move, whatever this move was that they wanted me to learn. And like, it's so weird because I've watched it in movies and I'm like, what the fuck, you know? And
Yeah.
like, I remember getting out of the car and breaking my ankle. Like because I didn't do it right, just broke my ankle and then broke my
Yeah.
ankle again. And then again and again and again, you know, or like the car flipped over and crashed down, you know, down the track. And it's like, nope, do it again. And I'm like, can't we just do this tomorrow? And he's like, nope, And I'm like, who's making me do this? He's like, it doesn't matter. Get back in the car, you know? And I'm just like,
Back in the car, we're doing this again. Yep.
yeah,
Probably what felt like 50 million times.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's a trip. And, you know, just different.
I was in training against Alpha Drax. I was in training against Mounteds. I was in training with weapons, without weapons, where the ones without weapons, I had to use psi abilities to survive. And there were lots of times that I didn't, and I would wake up in the dark and wonder, did they let me stay dead this time? And sure enough, about that time, they'd pull me out and hose me off, put me in some sort of clothes and send me back. There would be times I would piss them off and they'd come up, shoot me right between the eyes, and I'd wake up in the region. And that first altar, well, all the way through Langley and Montauk, and probably my first 15 years on Mars, I was in region more than I was out. Yeah, and you eventually learn. You do what you're told when you're told to do it, because death is not an option. You learn how to do things efficiently so that you don't wake up in region. You learn things, easier ways to accomplish something, and still sometimes it will be surprise. This ability popped up, like on Mars when the Raptors came through the cafeteria wall. I didn't know I could make it. I didn't know I could make a force field shield.
Mm-hmm.
Poof, there was one. So yeah, things appear in the moment. You may never be able to do that again, because you have to have a certain combination of absolute terror and the idea to do it flash across your mind while you're in absolute terror. And I've had people say, well, you can't duplicate that, so you don't have that ability. And I'm like, back when I was on Reality Brief, I did this set of, Dawn wanted to document what I remembered at that point in time. And in one of them, I got really upset. And I'm in California and he was in Virginia. And the lights started flashing in his house on and off because I was upset. And he had that on camera. And so he separated that out. That's in its own little video as proof Penny does this. But people don't believe it. Even if you have the proof, they don't believe it because they don't want to believe it. Mm-hmm. So 99% of the time, I never even give them the link. Why bother?
Well, it's like now, normally, like if I'm interacting with people, like if they give me permission, I'll put energy in their mind. And then they just stare at me all like, and I'm like, did you feel that? I'm just wondering if you felt that. Did you feel that? And they're just like, yes. And I'm like, oh, okay. Just want to make sure.
I have been known in conferences, if I'm walking past somebody and they're thinking loud and it's nasty, I have been known to get into their head. And I'm not even doing full intimacy telepathy. I'm doing front door telepathy. It's just, I'm right there and I'm talking to you. Mm-hmm. I'm not invading your mind. I'm just having a conversation like we're having, just talking. And it is such a shock to people when they realize I'm talking to you, but my mouth isn't moving. And they're like, oh shit, she really can do that, I only do it when it's somebody that every time I go past, it's something like,
Oh, fuck this person. She's not real.
yeah,
Stupid shit like that.
yeah, stupid shit like that. And I've been known to do it because they assume I can't hear them. And it's irritating.
Well, it's like I find myself, the one thing that grounds me is that council and my memories of that council, because there are people that piss me off and I'm like, I just want to go in their head and pop their fucking pineal gland. Just to fucking teach them a lesson, And then I think of the council and I'm like, nope, don't do that. That's off
Nope.
limits. That's not a good thing to do,
I
Like
generally honor their free will.
yeah, and it's
But if
like,
they keep walking past me, calling me a fraud in their mind, and they're loud enough, I hear them. Eventually, I'm going to let them know the error of their ways in a way that I don't harm them. It's bad enough I've blown their worldview. It's like, she can do that. And then they, I've had them refuse to interact with me afterwards. It's like
what, you don't like reality now? Come on, you should be happy now. Now you know the truth. Stop being a dick.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, is to stop being a dick.
And then there was like, I'm not going to be a dick. I'm going to stay away from this person. This person's evil or dangerous.
Oh yeah, I'm evil and dangerous because I can hear your thoughts. And I mentioned this recently in an interview or two. 90% of what goes through normal people's heads are food, bathroom, and sex. That's it.
I always add the fourth one, how much they hate you.
I don't get that one so much. Most of the people that walk past me, it's like, oh, she's weird. And then they go on. It's like, most of them I don't even register on their minds, which is fine with me.
I just pick it up emotionally for me, You're lucky. Most people just don't like me.
That shielding that I talked about, it's mirrored. So for most people, you know how you get this feel off of a person and you feel that they're there before you really know they're there? Because my shielding is mirrored, I'm invisible to them. So they don't pick up on that. It's like they bump into me and stuff because they don't pick up on that I'm even there, which is fine with me. I just assume they pretended I wasn't there.
I just know you're really powerful energetically when you're in person.
Oh, this last conference in March, Susan and Frank were there. And they're part of the community, and this was something that even they noted. We were standing in this circle just talking, and my hair's down to my ass. I mean, it doesn't really show on camera, but it's down to my ass, and it was going out straight at it, just straight out, aimed at Frank. People were stopping, going, what? What? The three of us had formed like a vortex. And there were people that were trying to get in the middle of it because they wanted to be part of that. And I'm like,
we're having a conversation. Like, let out.
Well, it's like you
That's gotta
are
be
in,
awkward. You're sitting there talking to two people, and all of a sudden this, oh, just hey, hi, hey, like,
yeah, it's like you're invading my personal space. And what is your issue? You're invading my personal space. What are you doing? You know, and but I'm terrible. Oh my God. Anyway, I normally deal with things okay. It's just when the same couple of people are pushy, or the same person keeps walking by and dissing me as they go past, then I'll let them know that I really am the real deal, and they go on with a improved view of reality. They may not like me any better, but they have an improved view of reality. And you know, I'm the first to admit it. Not everybody likes me.
I'm sorry. I like when you said that. I'm like, well, at least you get your head blown up.
I only do that to people who really are threatening to harm me.
I know. I'm just feel like at least you just got away with a telepathic conversation.
Yeah, really.
Be thankful. Sorry.
Glad you could laugh about it now, because when we first talked about it, you were like really upset.
Oh yeah, it's okay. You know, he earned it.
Yeah, he did.
But anyways, yeah, so what was it? Yeah, so anyways, I
Oh,
like I was saying before.
the audience may not understand that reference. I have discussed in the past that I blew up the head of my commanding officer. Joseph was who I blew up his head. He remembers that experience. And
Vividly.
he is still willing to come on my show and talk and laugh with me. And I'm glad.
I think the tank afterwards was the was the real kicker. That was weird. Like being in a region tank.
Okay. It was not my intention to kill you. It was my intention to stop the bullshit.
Oh yeah, no, it's all good. I just like
And you
like
got
region
to
tanks
even,
are awkward.
you spaced me.
Yes, I'm glad that whoever was in charge didn't let me go further than that. That was good.
Mhm.
You know, because you wouldn't be here. That wasn't the case. You know, so
Yeah, I wouldn't be here because the Germans use your natural body. We were we were part of an armada, and the Germans use your natural body when they have you. So if you're killed among the Germans, you're dead. They can bring you back in the regen tanks. They don't use clones because the regen tanks will bring back the soul and mind of the body. And so if it's a clone, they get the clone's mind instead of yours. So the Germans use your real body. When the CIA takes me, they use my real body. Kruger, Solar Warden. I don't remember being in ICC, but I know they maintain the same practice of they will use your body in a clone. Daryl, you're pacing. You don't have your ears on. Okay. All right. So yes, we can see Daryl pacing around. So.
but yeah. Anyways, yeah. So what was I talking about beforehand? It was yeah. So anyways, I got arrested and I got taken back to that room, the one that where I would actually do my job, right? And I think they tortured me for information. Um, and from what I've been told after I've remembered some at this point now is that the woman that was the secretary that was in my office, I went to see her and I was basically shipped out for 2 years.
Mm.
I was sent off to run some kind of operation on Titan, this place called Titan. I don't know what the
Titan
heck it is.
is a moon, I believe, of Saturn, maybe Jupiter.
Yeah,
There's a lot of moons out there that are occupied.
yeah. Well, whatever this place was, like I have bits and pieces of memory. But I was sent there and there was some things that like I guess we were supposed to take this place and there was other beings that were there
Mhm.
and they weren't budging. And when I showed
Some
up,
of them don't.
yeah, when I showed up, I was basically put in charge of the operation. And it was like I didn't want to be there to begin with because I had feelings for that woman that I was talking about that was the secretary, and I wanted to get back to her, and
Mhm.
because of what I did, my punishment was to be sent to this fucking place. And when I showed up, I
My
have memories.
experience with the Germans is they want you to be in a relationship of sorts because you become more productive that way, but they don't want there to be emotional ties.
Mhm,
And they definitely don't want those emotional ties interfering with the job.
mhm.
So,
And it's like they didn't. I don't know if they knew about that relationship that I had with her. I know that they knew about the relationship with me sharing information with that woman who was a slave.
mm,
Um, but I remember once I showed up, we were standing on this metal platform, and it was in the open, and I was talking to this person, and they were like, "Well, we're supposed to do this and that or something like that," and I was like, "Well, fine, let's just run them through," And
mm.
I basically ordered him just to start killing whoever wasn't working along with what needed to be done. And I believe that it was like a 2 year campaign, and we slaughtered a bunch of them. And I think we ended up winning whatever battle we were supposed to, whatever we were supposed to do, we ended up winning. And I was able to come back from that place, and I was really heartless, I think, at that point, mainly because
Yeah,
I didn't want to be there.
they do teach you to be cold.
Yeah, and I don't quite remember like what the species was. I don't even like I wasn't even on the front lines that I can recall. I was just the one giving the orders, you know, on, when we pressed forward or, if we, held back or whatever. I may have been on the front lines at some point. I don't know, you know. I'm not 100% on that. This is a new memory. Like it caused a lot of headaches when the name, when Titan was brought up, and I don't know, it's just been like unfolding since then. And
Yeah.
I remember eventually whatever campaign I was on got ended. We won. I got returned. I got able to return back to Mars and back to that place that I was uh, posted at to begin with. And I thought that this woman was waiting for me.
She wasn't.
She did for quite some time, but she ended up, I think, getting married or having some kind of relationship with what would be a scientist. It was like an egghead, really nice guy.
Hey, I'm an egghead on Earth. Come on.
Yeah, I mean,
Be chill about it.
he was a nice guy, but I was just like, really, you know. And I got to meet him. I have memories of this stuff now, and it's weird because I was like going back and forth with this person, and we were talking about it, and we were remembering as we were talking, and
Mhm.
it was all just like, I
Yeah.
got the emotions of it and stuff, and it was like I was trying to get her to run away with me. We were going to run away, just get off the planet, and I had it all set up to where we could. And
Do you know
she,
what happens to those folks?
I don't know. I don't know. It
They,
never ended up happening, but
the folks that end up running away, they are charged with stealing the faction's property. They are picked up and they are mind wiped and they are sent back to Earth and put in the most humiliating circumstances they can find.
Hmm.
I know one man who has built his own spaceship on Earth 3 times, made it to some out of the way little asteroid place, set up house with a bunch of his friends, and every single time he's been caught. And he wasn't even using faction property. He's been brought back, mind wiped, put in a crappier job every time because they keep hoping he's not going to have the resources to build another ship. Uh-huh.
yeah, but
And he doesn't remember it. And I've told him, I really think you're the one they're describing. And he goes, no, couldn't be me. I'm like, okay. So, the shit about people whenever, you're like, okay, it is what it is. You don't want to remember it. It's fine with me. But if you do remember it, you'll know I told you the truth.
but
I mean, I was impressed as hell that he built ships 3 times, kept
yeah,
getting sent
that
out.
is pretty impressive. You
Yeah,
know, building it once is impressive enough. Just
yeah. He used a classier version of not the first stage Hanabu, but about the 4th stage when they weren't as radioactive. And since I'm one of the people he takes with him, every time I tell him, you have to use shielding from the radiation. So, that's one of the lessons that I learned, was that all of the Hanabu ships, the engines gave off excessive amounts of radiation, that the crews were poisoned. So,
and we had, I don't know what it was. It was like I had a way to get transport off of Mars, and just
probably a Hanabu,
I don't know. I just know
because
somebody else was going to fly it for us. I was going to pay them to do it, and they they were going to take, like I like there was supposed to be some other planet where they had a city, where I can get to, and then we could have disappeared from there. Like that was the plan. She, however, felt bad because she had a kid with this person,
mm,
and she didn't want
she
to
didn't
leave him
want
like
to
that
leave her
because
child.
he wasn't a bad person. And I told her, we'll take your kid with you. Like I'm not, I don't care, even though it wasn't mine, it was hers. So, I was like, well, take your kid with you, and she was like, no, I can't do that to this person. And then I got to meet this person and he was really nice. And I'm like, damn it.
Yeah, doesn't that always suck when you really want somebody and the person they're with is a nice person and you're like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, like he shook my hand. I was like, hey, I've heard so much about you. And I'm like sitting there thinking in my head, like, I just want to crush your head.
Yeah,
Because at 2 years, I spent 2 years only thinking about her, and that was the only way that I was going to get back. That's the only thing that kept me going. And
yeah. I've had Earth relationships where that I didn't know the person was married. And when I found out they were, it was the same kind of thing. I personally could not live with myself being a homewrecker. And so, yeah, it puts you in a difficult position whenever circumstances change, like with you, or someone lies to you, like with me. And so, yeah, life sucks sometimes.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's like I remembered that, and it was just so weird because we were like bouncing memories off, and I was like, yeah, that's what happened. This, and then she was like, yeah, and then this happened. I was like, whoa, and like that all went down, and then like I just remember like meeting him, and I was like, I didn't hate the guy. I hated that he got with this person, but I didn't hate him, But it
Well,
was like,
there was a young man that I haven't talked about him, but he's dead now. His name was Alex, and he was a higher officer on one of the ships that I was on. And we had a relationship, and it was one of those freighter ships that travels a lot with their material support for the armadas. And you transport troops, and then you transport captives and all of this stuff. You're just going back and forth all the time. You basically live on the ship.
Mhm.
And I ran across him on Earth 2 years ago. And it was just shocking how fast all those feelings came back. And, out there, they keep us at a certain age, 25 for women and 30, 35 for men. And you are that age, no matter what age you really are. And here I was, God, I was over twice his age. And he ended up being tossed off a bridge. He was one of the people that was killed because I was talking. But I was going through this depression because I'm older, and I look in the camera and I see what I look like now. And it's so different from, I'm taken the night before, I'm 25, I look in the mirror and I'm 65, now 66. It's like instant change. It's not like gradual like it is on Earth. It's like at night I'm 25, in the daytime I'm this age, and the change is dramatic. And he told me, he says, Penny, relax, enjoy being old. Not everybody gets to, and it's like, okay, you
yeah.
know, it's little things like that are crazy making, especially you go on camera and people are complaining about your weight. They compare, you have a zit on your face and it's like, we're people.
Mhm.
We're people who've been through hell, and they expect us to be studio perfect, and it ain't gonna happen.
They expect when you say super soldier, you're supposed to be like this freaking like prime age, prime look, prime everything, just like,
Yeah, well, we are in space.
yeah, right. And it's just they expect you to be like that in the here and now, it's like,
Yeah, if you're not that in the here and now, then you're a fake. Well,
yeah, yeah, I've heard that.
that's full of shit. Well, she is old and fat. How could she be a super soldier? Well, I was a pilot anyway. I recall I was a little on the chunky side in space.
Not too much, honestly. Not that I remember.
Okay. Um, hmm.
When I saw your photo, the photo that you shared,
Mhm.
man, that tripped me out.
Yeah, that was
I was
really
like,
neat.
yeah, I was like, there's the Penny I remember.
Yeah, and I have different altars that are out there with different colored hair, uh, blondes, brunettes, redheads, And apparently, according to some of the people out there, I have one altar that shaves her head. So, yeah, it's like, okay.
I've met that altar in Solar Warden. You keep a pretty cut hair pretty low.
Oh, well, they shaved my head all the time when I was at Langley, so I can
Yeah.
see one of them feeling that way.
Well, I mean, like I think from what I remember, the purpose behind it was you're just rebellious. Like most of the women, the majority of women that are on that ship keep their hair long and in bun, like in a bun, basically, and you're like, fuck you all. That's your attitude. Like
I have moments I'm like that. I have had times when my hair was 3 inches long all over.
Mhm.
That was when my kids were little and I was working full time, and hair was an afterthought.
Mhm.
And my kids were very blonde, and I bleached my hair out so that I would stop getting the inevitable stupid question of where'd they get the blonde hair? You know, yeah, people are stupid. I mean, come on, they are. They are
Hold on
just
1 second.
absolutely stupid.
Someone's knocking on the door. Give me 1 second.
Okay. Daryl. back.
Yep. Sorry.
So-
Had a mailman come and knock on the door.
Okay, my furball decided to join me. This is Kazoo. Come on, let's let people see that face. This is Kazoo Kitty, and she is 13 years old and spoiled rotten. I mean, yeah, pets are supposed to be, right? And
Yep.
she thinks she's a baby. So we have about an hour left. Is there anything you'd like to talk about?
I don't know. What
And
else did you want to?
I'll try to not interrupt you.
Oh, it's all good. Hey, I like having conversations with you. The interviews that we have are always awesome.
Cool. I get a lot of feedback that I interrupt too much, so.
I've seen
makes
it.
me-
I'm like, whatever.
It makes me self-conscious, but I can't seem to stop myself from doing it anyway.
Most of it is just you informing people, like breaking things down a little more so they actually understand. That's why I don't really care.
I found talking to people over the years that what I thought was simple and elementary was going through and just slapping them. And by the time that they got that through that initial shock, I was already another 10 concepts down the road. So, yeah. She's staring at me. Have you ever been stared at by a cat?
Mhm.
Anyway, yeah. Weird side thought, when I was in high school, I had this habit of I would use word puzzles and I was deliberately confusing people because I could. And apparently I was a pain in the ass. And me? What? But yes, Kazoo. Mama was a pain in the ass. And one of my teachers told me that the point of talking is to communicate. And if your listener does not understand what you're talking about, then all you're accomplishing is the pleasure of hearing your own voice.
Mhm.
And that has stuck with me all these years. So I do try to make sure people understand what I'm talking about. Even if they don't agree with me, at least they understand what I said. So,
That's why I said. That's why I like being on your show, because you actually elaborate in depth further than I do. Like I'll just say stuff and you'll be like, you'll know what I'm saying, but you're like, so this is what he's actually saying.
or
You know.
I'll ask you if this is what you're actually saying, because folks, I am not in the man's head. I try to stay out of other people's heads as much as I can.
Don't worry. I don't even want to be in my own head.
There are days I don't want to be in mine either, but you know, we're stuck here.
Right. I don't know. What other stuff did you want to go over? Because I don't know. I have memories of
You've
different stuff.
covered a lot of territory over the interviews that we've had, and you appear to be getting more depth of memory on those events, which is good. It means you're doing the work. And I'm glad you're doing the work, because that's the only way you're ever going to find peace with it.
I know my guides and higher self have told me to slow down and find normie friends. That's what they told me. They were like, you would know, like there's a person that can connect to my higher self and stuff. And my guides, and this basically was like, they said for you to find some normie friends and that you would know what that means. And I'm like, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I understand the concept.
Yeah, and they were like, I was like, well, I was
I
like,
I stopped being able to relate to normies a long time ago. Um, I have the utmost respect for them.
Mhm.
I wish them well. I just don't fit very well into their world, and they go into shock in mine. So if
Yeah,
you're still able to have normie friends, more power to you.
yeah, I'm just like, I mean, I do have some friends and like, I don't know if they're normal, but they're not like me, you know? So it's like, not that I know of. It would be interesting to find out otherwise, but I just found that to be funny, and I'm just like, oh, and they're like, yeah, they're basically telling you to have some more normal friends, and I was like,
To stay more grounded in
yes, that's
3D
exactly it.
reality. Yes. It's real easy to lose your grounding. It's real easy to be like a balloon, like a helium balloon that's let go and just go and go and go and never be seen again. Yeah. Um,
And they told me not to press too hard because I still have like blocks that they haven't quite been able to work on yet.
yeah, I've been told that I should work more on the shadow work for the ones I've reintegrated and give it a rest on reintegrating more.
Mhm.
Um, I had some serious health problems over the last year, and I kind of had this fear that I was running out of time.
Mhm.
And the surgery that I'm looking forward to next month should help with a lot of that. Um, when I'm not in agony all the time, that will help with being able to interact with normies, um, being patient with people who, the worst thing that I've run across are people who have a religious mindset and they cannot see anything outside of it. They have closed themselves into this little box, and most of the time, I'd say 99% of what I talk about is 3D real, and they can't look at it because they're in a religious box. And that's really sad when you think about it. I'm not talking about demons. Most of the time, I'm not talking about ETs except as supporting cast. I'm talking about 3D real children being kidnapped by 3D real government agencies and mind fractured and then used as slave labor in real black ops for the rest of their lives. Now, whether your religion teaches flat earth or round earth, whether you think that what I experienced was in another dimension rather than on earth, none of that really matters. People are getting lost in the particular trees rather than seeing the forest. And the forest is your government's kidnapping your children,
Mhm.
and only you can stop it. And that's why I talk.
Yeah, it's my daughter, she started telling me some of the stuff that she was like remembering.
How old is she?
She's I think 9 now. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's around 9, and she started talking about how she got taken by this group of what she basically said were aliens. They looked like aliens, and I was like, well, what do they look like? Were they gray? Were they, and she basically was like, yeah, there were some gray looking aliens, and then there were some green ones. And, so I pressed her for more information from what she was
Mhm.
remembering, because sometimes I'll sit there and like, I'll use my energy to try to like, decalcify her pineal gland and stuff. And
Lecithin, you can buy it at Walmart.
okay,
It's made from sunflower seed oil.
okay.
It's a B vitamin, and it is a very mild chelation agent,
Mhm.
and it will slowly, gently take the calcium out of the pineal.
I like how you said that gently. Yeah,
Gently. Some of the chelation agents are really harsh and do more harm than good. This one's very gentle, and it's a vitamin, and old people should all be taking it because it prevents strokes.
interesting.
So
Yeah. So like I do that sometimes. I'm really gentle. Like I don't go in and try to yank it off, just like
yeah.
small gestures here and there,
Mhm.
But yeah, normally when I do that now, it's like with certain people, they start getting flashes of memories. Especially when I remove some of the blocks that they have, the ones that they can handle. I don't
Mhm.
go and remove blocks that people can't handle. It's like if I can remove some of the blocks that they can't handle, and I make sure that that's the intent, normally they'll get flashes. Sometimes they don't, you know. Every time I've done that so far, they get visited by black helicopters for some weird reason.
There seem to be an awful lot of black helicopters in the world.
Yeah, I'm just like, you
there's
know,
there's something every night that flies over my apartment. It's either a helicopter or a plane or something every night. And it's like, why bother going to bed? The plane hasn't gone over yet.
well, see, I live right next to a train, so I get
Yeah.
I get to hear. Sometimes I'll get to hear the helicopter. Normally they don't. Normally they just have craft fly around, but it's like then I get the train too. I sleep through the train normally, but unless something comes in my room and then I wake up, you know. Um,
Well, there are certain sounds that we live next to a um, steam engine railroad park. And, this is the weekend, so they're blowing the whistle for the little kids. And we are on the main back road to Yosemite that the locals take. And so there's a lot of traffic. And my neighbor has a pickup that apparently he finally fixed the muffler. I've been on Doug Dietrich's show whenever that he would be coming home from work and it would sound like the whole world was blowing up. And I'm like, and of course, Doug has to go crazy over it. You know,
yeah, it's I know when they're coming down because the dogs will start barking.
yeah.
The whole neighborhood of dogs. I'm just like, great.
Yeah.
And then I
The
get tired
dogs,
and I go to sleep.
the dogs start barking and the cats start yelling. And if I'm asleep, they'll wake me up. And if I'm awake, it makes me go to sleep.
Mhm.
And even if they're coming in the middle of the day, I will just suddenly nod out and
Well,
Lou walks me up to the bed and plugs me into the CPAP.
yeah, like it's there was one time it was really funny. It was late at night. Everybody else in the house was asleep but me. And I was sitting there watching TV and my gate that I have, right? I have a lock on it. So like once you put it in place, you can still open it. Go figure, because it's like the way the lock is. So you can still open it, but when you open it, I can hear it. So I hear the gate
Yeah.
go and pop out, and I'm like, huh. And then the TV's on, and as soon as they get to a certain point, they can realize the TV's on, and then I hear like pattering of running away. And I'm like, I'm like, haha, not today, bitches.
Yeah, not this time. In my apartment, you go up the stairs and there's a landing, and there's 2 bedrooms and a bathroom and the hall closet. Yeah,
Mhm.
we're up there, and that's where they open the portal.
Mm.
And it's this big round red light, and there'll be humans in black fatigues come out, and everybody's asleep, and they take me with them. And I know somebody that used to be on one of the teams, and she didn't want to come public about it because she figured everybody would hate her because she's on the team that kidnaps. But like she and I discussed, she was under duress just like we were.
Yeah.
This was just her assignment there. And she's since been taken off the squad, probably for talking to me. And she said, you know, Penny, you are such a bitch. It takes 4 of us because you fight us. Even when we think you're out, you still fight us. And I'm like, well, you know, I really don't want to go.
Yeah, it's like for me, they're not humans. They're like actual aliens, and like either they're reptilians, which are really strong, and you can't fucking fight them because, when they grab me, they have me passed out, but they'll grab both my feet and both my hands, and I'm just hanging there.
Mhm.
And they're tall, like really tall, because I'm like hanging off the ground. I'm like, you know, I've woke up one time because they were pulling me off the bed.
I know when I was a kid, I thought it was reptilians, and I was so scared, you know. And after a while, I started noticing the zipper,
Yeah, like these ones, they're
and
cloaked.
I would just unzip them. And after that, they stopped bothering with the costumes.
That's funny.
But once you got over being scared, they were obviously costumes. I mean, it's only because you were scared that you thought they were real. Yeah,
Mhm.
because when you aren't scared, oh my God, that is so tacky.
Well, like my first memories of being taken by the military was when I was around 7 or 8,
Mhm.
give or take, and they came into my room like through the sliding glass door. They opened the sliding glass door and just walked right in. And what I
Mhm.
what I thought they were shadow men. They looked like
Mhm.
shadow men with red eyes. But then I found that they weren't shadow men. Like when I did a session with Misha, she was like, "Take me to the first time you were abducted," and I was like, "Boom!" And that's what came up. And I was like, "Man, they look like shadow beings of some sort, and they have red eyes." And I was like, "I remember this." And I was like
Yeah,
reliving that memory, and I was like, "No, they're not." And I'm like sitting
yeah,
there like they're not shadow men, and then I realized they were like in fatigues, military
yeah,
fatigues, and that they were wearing those headsets, for like night vision basically, but like
yeah.
not night vision, but what's the
They
other one?
they didn't have the night vision whenever they first came to get me. That was in '59.
Yeah,
Uh, but they
they
were
had
wearing green
oh
fatigues, and they came in at night through the front door. But
mhm,
they had everybody in the house asleep, and they went through and hunted me down.
mhm. It was like where I lived in a 2-story house, and my room and then my sister's room was across the way from me, and then my parents' room was further down, but all 3 of them had uh, a way to enter in from outside from the sliding glass door,
Oh,
walking up the staircase to get to there. So they didn't even have to go through the house. You know what I mean? So they just went through the
yeah,
sliding glass door and grabbed me up. And I remember being put into a vehicle, and I remember like and it's still fuzzy, but like being in some kind of underground base. I don't know why I even know that, but I just know that it was an underground base, and that's it. I don't know what I was doing there, but I remember seeing my teacher there. So that was just a weird situation.
Now, when they took me, they put me in the back of a Jeep, and this was Korea version Jeep, and there was already another kid in the back, and we drove from California to Virginia, and we went Route 66 where there wasn't a tunnel. They were building the maglev train system then. So
Hmm.
part of the way there were tunnels and part of the way there weren't. The trains were not running yet. And we drove, took days. And they only drove at night because they didn't want anybody to see kids in the back of the Jeep.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's just the crazy stuff like that. And it's like the first time I got picked up that I can recall now was by the ship, and that altar was taken right after I was broken. And
Mhm.
basically they created that altar. And that one was picked up when I was playing in the yard. We had this big mound of dirt because the house that I lived in, my stepdad built. So we had this big mound of dirt that was still there from, when they bought all the supplies and stuff. And in the middle of it, because they had a thing where they dug out the center of it. They were basically digging out the center of it to use to build the house and stuff. So
Mhm.
I would go and I would climb up the little mound and then go inside. And there was like this inside area in the mound, and I would play with my toys. And I just remember like looking up, and this craft that was like boat shaped in a sense, but it was like really silver, like almost like
Like
like the one in the Phantom Menace, but it wasn't like that.
like a cigar shape.
Yeah, in a sense, but not some of the ones that I've seen like on photos and stuff, but it's totally different, but it was really nice. And it just flew over and hovered, and then boom, I blacked out. And that altar is the one that you ended up serving with, but
Okay.
he was taken separately and like lived in this place. It was ran by a house that's been talked about, but I don't think that they understand the depth of what they do. And he lived there with these other individuals that are just like us. And I remember their faces and their names, and their names here. And it's just weird. It's weird because we were punished if we did stuff that we weren't supposed to do, and then it's like they stripped anything that was wholesome from us as we were growing up. Um,
Mhm.
and I just remember once I got to a certain age, I had a lot of resources because of the family I was a part of, and we were branches of this family. And each of us, whoever the person was that we took their spot, they built up resources. And what we did is we would use our resources to give to other groups and get those resources plus others back. Um,
Okay.
so it was pretty awkward, but that's actually how that altar was able to serve with you. He actually bought his way into his position. That position wasn't earned. Um, Hence the reason why I always went on those missions that you talked about, where he would go on missions that most people wouldn't. Um,
Okay.
but it was like he actually joined up. It's weird because he had I remember having like a baby dragon. Everybody in the house got their own. Some got more than one. Um, I don't know what they were to us. I don't know if they were there to protect us or whatnot, but um, I remember, and another person actually remembers this. And basically, we all had other clones, and that's how he knew about other clones and stuff. And he met this one clone that person was there and is part of that house as well. But this clone was served in Solar Warden. And when he met her, they had an interaction. They I think they financed like some kind of school for them, like a training or some kind of training school for them. And basically he gave his dragon to her, and Solar Warden got a hold of it and
Ooh,
took it.
poor dragon.
Yeah. And once he got a little bit older and learned the error of his way, like his mistake, he ended up meeting with, like, I think they were like two separate individuals. One was from Nacht Waffen and one was from Solar Warden. They were like ambassadors, some kind of ambassadors almost, but they came to him for resources. And I have memories of talking to both sides separately. And basically I wanted to serve in Solar Warden, but they wouldn't change their uniforms. He didn't like their uniform. He wanted to wear the black uniform. He liked the black uniform that Nacht Waffen wore.
Well, it is classy.
And he wanted his fucking dragon
Isn't
back.
it?
Yes, it is. And he wanted his dragon back. And but he also, which they would have given him his dragon back. They said that it would take a while, but that it was still alive, basically. And he also wanted to be able to do whatever he wanted to do to a certain extent. And that was part of the deal. And Solar Warden was like, nope, not going to happen. We're not going to change our uniform, and we are definitely not going to let you just do whatever you want. So when he talked to this representative from Nacht Waffen, they were like, he basically was like, well, I like your black uniforms. He was like, they could probably be tailored better, but and he was willing to supply resources to get them better uniforms too, which I found quite interesting going through this memory.
The dress whites are incredible. The the blacks that you wear on bridge are a little uncomfortable, but they look really nice.
Yeah, I love that uniform. I don't know. It was
The ones I have heard are the most comfortable are the gray overalls that the maintenance people use, maintenance and engineering.
oh, that kind of hurt. Yeah, but and I basically I made a deal with them where I could do whatever I wanted to a certain extent. And they allowed me to do that. And they said within a certain limit, and that, and I agreed with them, and I was like, I gave them resources, and that's how I ended up serving on the ship that you were on.
So I bet it came as a total shock that you were serving with somebody that got pissed and blew up your head.
Yeah. Like the way he was raised where there was really no limits.
Mhm.
Like he was raised royal, like as what would be a royal, basically. Like you can buy whatever you want, kind of a situation.
And then he ran across me.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. But that's one of the reasons why he got away with a lot of the stuff he got away with.
You do understand I actually am a royal.
Mhm.
And I was modified to live around Draco.
Mhm.
And I was slave labor out there.
Mhm.
So it's this dichotomy of I was at your level, I was modified to be more than your level, and yet at the same time, I was this fucking slave.
Mhm.
And it just reached a point where it was like, no, I'm not going to let you do that to me.
Yeah. I mean, but that,
And apparently, no one had ever told you no before and made it stick.
That's yeah, uh, pretty much. And
So it was a
you
good
know,
learning experience for you. Too bad it had to hurt.
yeah, but it's like, that's pretty much how that all worked. It's weird, like having the memories of him being a kid too, you know, because it's like,
I have memories of Penelope Valkyrin being a kid in Shula.
mhm,
I have memories of her being a lab rat and a prisoner at Langley and Montauk. And that's the best you can describe it, as a lab rat. It was 5 years of lab rat. And then I was a kid at Shula. And I didn't have parents there. I didn't have anybody who gave a damn about me as an
mhm,
individual, but I was at least allowed to be a kid. And I was going to school, and I had a job at the gardens, and I could do, you know, I learned things that were useful. I learned how to get along with the other people in my bunk barracks. There were 12 of us, and we had all been lab rats together. So here we were used to being in solitary, and suddenly there were 12 of us in a room together.
mhm. Yeah, it's weird because it's like the way that he was raised, like he had, that house connects more with the reptilian side than they
Uh-huh.
do anything else. So
So why was he so anti-Draco?
I don't know. He just really, for some reason, he just really hates fucking Draco. Like and it's like, I don't know what the hell happened to him. Something had to have happened to him.
Because that house is affiliated with Draco,
Hmm.
and they had dragons, which
Hmm.
are what the Draco worship. No, they are not the same species, for those of you out there who are saying that bullshit. Draco and Siakar are two completely different species. So anyone who says otherwise is completely ignorant or intentionally lying to you. There's always that possibility too. A Draco Alpha Draconian is approximately 15 feet tall. An adult Siakar is the size of a football field.
Hmm.
They're not the same thing at all. At all, at all, at all. An Alpha Draconian stands, has wings, has a tail, looks like a humanish dragon. A Siakar is a dragon. And when you see them next to each other, you do know the difference.
Yeah. And it's like, it was weird because it's like one of the kids that was there, he got, like, I got in trouble. I was going to get in trouble because I had done something. And in trouble means you get punished.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
I
yeah. I know
decided,
enough about those folks. Yes, you get in trouble and you get seriously punished.
yeah, so I decided to lie and say it was a different kid. And I know who this person is. I talked to him in person. We never talked about this, but he got punished for what I did. And he never forgave me for it. And any chance he ever got, he would basically be either verbal or physically abusive, you know, to that individual altar. Um, so like they had this weird situation, and like they would pile onto him. Like he was basically the black sheep of
Because
that
he lied.
yeah, and it was like he did it that one time, but that made him the
That's
black
all it
sheep,
took.
and everybody hated him for the most part. Not everybody. There were a few that didn't hate him, but um the majority did. And it is what it is, but I guess, that really fucked him up mentally. And between that and just the mixture of him thinking he'd do whatever he wanted, because that's the way he was raised, it creates a pretty bad fucking situation.
Yeah,
Um,
because when people have power and resources and they have no self-control because they've never had limits, that's a really bad situation.
yeah. And but yeah, I don't know. It's weird because it was like that's when I was picked up for that whole situation was when I was a kid, when I was around like 7-ish or 8-ish, give or take, like or not 8 or 9, right after I got broken, right
Mm,
after they fractured that altar, right after they fractured that altar and created attached that name to that altar, or that the series of numbers and then that name.
mhm.
Right after they did that, he was
Uh,
picked up and taken.
I have two sets of numbers. One is just the number code, and that one is like my OSS number. Yes, my file came from OSS, so I have an OSS number. And then I have a separate code number that's from something called DEATHCOM, which has to do with literally communicating with dead. And so who knows what the hell they used me for with that one.
Just imagine.
I'm grateful I don't have memories of it. I'll put it that way. But in real time, I used to do home health care.
Mhm.
And when people died, they asked me to be the one to hold their hand while they were dying because their families had gotten so hostile. It's, well, why don't you just go ahead and die already and save us the money we're paying out for you? I've heard families tell their parent that.
Mhm.
There was one woman I wanted to smack her myself. Her mother wasn't even sick. She was just old and
Fucked
cranky.
up.
Yeah, that's fucked up. And so I would be the person that would be holding their hand while they died, and I would end up walking them across.
So you worked in hospice mainly?
It ended up hospice. It didn't start off that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was taking care of people with things like lupus, um, cancer,
I
things
remember
that
the
things that would start off that I was just doing home health care and housekeeping, and then they would get sicker and sicker, and I was usually there till the end. And I would end up so attached to these people that I would have to spend time mourning them before I could replace them.
Yeah. I think like they call it expressions normally in like some other places, like where they have people come and live, like it's called like the expressions or something. I can't remember.
Well, I didn't live with them, but I would be there several times a week. And
Yeah.
I would get really close to them. And most of them where I live is a retirement community and they don't have their children nearby.
Yeah.
So I would literally be the replacement for their child.
I think that was sorry, expressions is for, I think people with Alzheimer's,
Mm.
that have Alzheimer's or something like that. I'm not 100%. I'd have to,
Well, at the time, the folks that had Alzheimer's, we had 2 units here that would deal with them when they got to the point where they were too hostile. They reach a point where they don't know who you are anymore, and they become combative because they are confused and they don't know who you are. And that's when they have to go to a unit for a while, because you cannot usually their partner is also elderly and cannot physically handle them. And they can get really vicious. When my grandmother was in this stage, and hers was from strokes, not Alzheimer's. So when my grandmother was in that stage, she was actually biting my aunt, she would bite her so hard she would bleed. And that's why she ended up in a facility, was because she was that hostile. And we had a family member working at the facility, so we knew she'd be okay there. That's something else people need to remember. If your family member is in a facility, you have to go visit them. You have to, because the staff is overworked, and the people that they know their family is going to be there get better care than the people that don't. And that's just the honest truth. They feel that the visitors make them accountable. So I know that's completely off topic, but
No, I've worked as a kind of like a waiter in at one of the places, one of the retirement home places. And yeah, man, it's so weird watching these people show up and they just no fucking regard for their loved ones. They only show up because they want to make sure that they're still in the will, or they're still, you know, whatever the situation is.
Or
Sad.
How soon is mom gonna die?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, I don't care how obnoxious your parent is, that's wrong.
People are evil. And I'm going to say this out loud. I had to hop in on that because I was listening. And I was like, oh, and Samantha Goldberg was listening. And we were like, oh. And it was like the statement, how people are. It's ridiculous. They are users and manipulators. They're trying to take over something that they think they deserve. And I'm sitting here like, what do you really deserve but to love and be loved? But they don't know what love is.
No, they don't.
All they know is how to use.
The stuff belongs to your parent until your parent dies. It's not yours.
And that's technically not theirs anyways.
That's
the parent lets them have it.
Biggest point that people are missing. It's not yours. It's theirs until they are dead.
And then you can have the bills too, right?
Yeah, really. I have seen families completely destroy one another over a car and a house.
Trinkets, yeah.
Trinkets. That's what I call it. Hold on. Joseph, we can't be doing this, man. You're too much like me and I'm too much like you. And you're right with the word trinkets. Things.
Stuff.
Stuff. Ooh.
They're creating lifetime enmity with their siblings, with their aunts and uncles over stuff.
And you wonder why they call them cursed objects.
Yeah. Yeah. And how did they treat their parent while this person was dying? Because they wanted their stuff.
Listen, there are people out there that don't even go see their parents, don't even communicate with their parents on a regular, know how they're doing. I mean, me, I call my moms. And if she answers, good. If she don't answer, I'm wondering, is she everything okay? I have to know the time. Well, I know where I'm now, that she's eating dinner. That's the way, that's moms. But the bottom line is, Penny, that people do not have respect or love, or they don't believe in family attachments. Like, like Angel was out, we're talking last night, and he was like, he turned down leaving to be with his woman back in the day because his mother was sick and he didn't want her to be alone.
Yeah.
That's a son. That's a good boy. That's a good son.
I watch young people and I don't put my fingers in their relationships, okay? That's something they have to live with. But when I see a young man getting mad at his wife and taking off for the day, and then she goes on social media talking to her friends and they're bad-mouthing him
And then he comes home with flowers and a present for her because he took the time to calm down, and the social media is hyping it up, and the woman's
Exactly.
looking.
The woman's sitting there and she's just seething, and he comes home and he's calmed down and she isn't. And they might have a kid or two, and young women are not taught that men need their cave time.
Good God. Can you say that?
They're not even taught that. It's like they think that they have to keep pounding on a man and get the man to agree to something, and the guy is in this mode of leave me the fuck alone or I'm gonna punch you. And then he walks out so he doesn't punch you, and they think, oh, he's walked out on me. And I'm like, oh,
Left us.
God.
Left us. Oh my God.
Yeah, and then he comes back 5-6 hours later, and he's calmed down, and she's in an absolute shithead panic. And meanwhile, you've got all the tongues wagging. And I'm like, people, you don't need to panic every time you have a dispute. And if the guy is going out for 5-6 hours, he's not hitting you, so count your blessings.
Hold on, make it even better. If he's gone 5 or 6 hours, he's doing his time. He's doing his thing. Listen, my thing about going away from leaving out the house to calm myself down, the reason why I like to do that and where I like to go, well, man time. What do you think you're going to do? Man time. The guys get together, they talk the talk, and you sitting there, you telling them, oh yeah, she ain't shit, la 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 la. But the bottom line is, in the back of your head, you're like, maybe she might have some facts straight. Maybe something she. Let me go home, take some flowers, show some love. Maybe she'll change a little bit and understand my side instead of living in her narcissistic ideological way. Maybe.
What we've got going on here is that men are taught they have to be strong, silent types, and that they can't be feeling those gentle emotions. And then we got women being taught that they have to command the situation. And they're both being taught that if you're not getting your needs met, that you should leave. And they don't give a shit what happens to the kids.
Oh, the kids are thrown out. I mean,
yeah. This is what I see going on with young people. Now, I divorced my kid's dad because he gave me gonorrhea twice. And
you already know where he got it from.
And he broke my neck.
Oh, well, you know where he got that from?
Yeah, so he didn't get it from me. So I had what I thought were good reasons. My kids still hate me. My eldest is 45, and he still hates me because I divorced his dad and then married somebody else.
Well, hold on. Can I ask you a question, Penny, on a real note?
Yeah.
Do they know the situation called Get Over It? Or how about this other one that people don't like to talk about? Grow the fuck up.
Well, they've been listening to their dad and their stepdad about what a bitch I was.
Well, hey, guess what? You could be
Maybe
queen.
I was. I've got alters. Maybe I was a bitch.
Well, hey, you could be queen bitch for all you care. The bottom line is, whose business is it anyway?
What right do they have to sit in judgment of what I was trying to do, which was to make a safe household for them?
Oh, the bigger issue, Penny, I go to the next part. The biggest issue that
I stayed with him.
was sleeping beside the demon.
I stayed with him for 10 years.
got your neck broke almost, been beat up, been stomped, been.
The surgery that I have to have next month is because of the injury he gave me.
Oh, but hold on, Penny. I guess the kids would sit there and say, "Wait, mommy, you should have sat there and just took it like a woman. Take it like a woman. Take it." And
I accused him one day of wanting me to have been dead, and I haven't discussed it with them since. They think I'm unreasonable because I won't forgive him. They think I'm unreasonable because I refuse to talk about it with them anymore.
well, Penny, let me say it again.
The whole point that they come up with is that it's all my fault. Well, I'm sorry.
Well, hold on, Penny. Let me go back to the point again. You know, like Nancy Pelosi said, we don't hate the president. We forgive him. We pray for him. And you know what you could say to them? I forgive him, but I can't be with him. I'll pray for him.
I don't forgive him.
Well, you know something. You could be nice and you know, do it like
I'm not going to lie to him.
Okay, so you're more like me than I know, because I ain't gonna lie, and I'm gonna tell the
I'm
damn
not going to
truth.
lie to
I
him.
think-
I have a post-traumatic stress shock panic attack every time I have to be around him. And every time there's a big family event, they tell me, well, Dad's going to be there, and if you can't be nice to him, don't come.
Okay, well, guess what? Joseph, what do you say? Because what I would say at that point would be, you know something? Fuck every single last one of y'all.
Well, you know,
I
What
don't
would
know
you
what
say,
I would do in
Joseph?
that situation. I mean, I probably just wouldn't show up.
No. You
What
got
about me?
you got to respond to that. Come on, you know us men. You know
oh,
we got.
I went to their weddings, but I haven't gone to the rest of the stuff.
So you can go to their weddings and knowing you probably outlive them all. So you'll see them at their funerals and they,
Probably,
in the end,
yeah, you know.
you're like the dummy now. Because guess what? They had a chance to be with a mother that loves them versus sitting there talking that yin yang BS that's been fed to them through indoctrination by their
But, you
sperm
know,
donor.
I taught them how to be husbands. Every one of them are still married to their first wife.
So guess what?
None of them are in jail.
Mm-hmm.
None of them have a drug problem.
Mm-hmm.
They're all working. They're all self-supporting, and they're all with their first wife. So I haven't done that bad a job.
Well, I think the children should come and give you an honorary ceremony of Queen Mom and celebrate your name and sing it like they do in Valhalla. Sing the name of Penny because Penny has done her job and she did it well. Be blessed.
My point of view is I don't care if my kids hate me as long as they turn out to be successful. It doesn't matter to me. You know.
My standards were that you know, they have a happy life and their relationship is the cornerstone of that. And if they're in a relationship that they're happy with, and Kevin my middle son has been with his wife for 20 years. So, you know,
So who does Kevin owe that to?
you know, I may have divorced his dad, but I still taught him how to be a good husband.
You know something? America needs a mom because America's all screwed up. These kids think they are deserving, owed, not owing, deserving, owing, and must have. And the problem that they really have is they're all so weak, not only in the mind, but they're weak in body. They don't know how to do anything because they think they are everything. I am one of everything.
Oh, gee, mine know. I made sure mine know how to use a weed eater
Mhm.
and a lawnmower and how to garden, and they worked on their own cars, and we cut wood for heat, and they got to go out and chop the wood. And, I got told that that was abuse.
Oh, in modern society,
Yeah,
uh,
you gotta sit them in front of the TV and like walk off and go
no,
do
you
whatever you're doing.
get my cell phone.
Not in my house.
You
In
know,
my
you got
house, they had
that's the
they had
modern response.
homework, they had chores, they had contribute to the household because you live here, you use the resources, you contribute.
Yeah, for me, it's
Well,
I do this thing where like basically they have certain chores that they have to do, and there's regular stuff you have to do just because you live here, and then there's certain chores that you do, and they get paid a certain amount to do those chores, and they have like a setup for three things, which is like spending, savings, and giving, and they have to take their money and they put like 8% into giving, and then they divide the rest between savings and spending, and then they save their money for whatever they really really want, and then they have money to spend if they go places, and then if there's somebody who needs help or whatever and they feel like giving money, they can give money. um, and it
that's
teaches
good.
them
And
how to
your
use their
oldest is
money.
9.
Yeah, my oldest is 9 and my youngest is 5, and both of them get it. Like my oldest, you should have saw, like, she bought her first TV.
Ooh, I like
Like
her.
and she still has it. And it's like, it was funny watching her hand like $100 and something to the cashier, and the cashier was like, "Oh, did mommy and daddy give you that?" She's like, "No, I worked for it."
When mine got to where they were old enough, 12, 13-ish, I had them do babysitting for the neighbors or yard work. And so they were making their own money. Of course, the second husband took half of it. So this was old school. Now, I don't know if it was this way when Daryl was a kid, but when my parents were kids, your father owned you until you were 21.
You know what time it is.
And everything that you made belonged to the family. And
Mhm.
if you got to keep any of it, that was a gift. Now, by the time my kids came along, they thought that if they earned money, it was all theirs. And so there's this cultural shift between them. Now, I knew that my parents were poor and I worked. I was a math tutor and I ended up half that money went to my parents. So
At least you got something.
yeah, I got something out of it. But, I was working, and math tutor is not exactly an easy job if you've ever tried to teach kids something they don't want to learn.
What happened to the days of Little House on the Prairie, where the whole family pitched in and got the job done, helped mama out, boys were out in the field working with daddy? And what happened to the days when men used to go out there and do the hunting, or they would go out there and call it a family outing, and we all go out together with our family to go fishing?
Oh, you should have seen my oldest when we went to okay, second husband's mother was living in West Point, which is backwoods. I'm talking West Point, California. It's backwoods. And there had been a mountain lion coming up into their yard. And so the men of the family went with their hunting rifles and they were chasing this mountain lion. And my eldest was 14 at the time and got taken along for the trip. And he thought, oh yeah, we're just chasing a cat, right?
He saw how big that sucker was, didn't he?
Then he saw how big that sucker was, and it was eyes were big, and he's mom, that big. It was as big as the whole truck. Going, maybe it was about half. And I said, and now you want to think about Grandma Margaret stuck in that house by herself with that thing out in the yard. And he goes, oh. I said, that was the whole point of the trip. And, that the men of the family take care of the old people. This is a concept that's awesome. This is a concept that's also been lost in our culture, is that we owe
the past generation.
We owe family status. Okay? Just like we take care of the kids, we take care of the elders.
But something, this culture does not say the elders are, they call them a hindrance, a weight on you. I've seen these yuppies walk away from their families, meaning mom, dad, and forget about them. But they can put you in an old folks home, can't they? They can put you in a retirement
And then they have to pay for it.
No.
That's what I told my kids when they came to do a sanity check on me was if you're going to put me in one of those places, you're going to have to pay for it. You might ought to think about that before you put me in.
Well, she might not be all there, but it's all good. Take it off. Sorry.
Pretty much. Well,
and
apparently she's together enough to handle her own affairs. So.
Okay, and Christine said, my parents owned a service master. I was cleaning a medical clinic around 10 in the exam rooms. Kind of inappropriate thinking back then, but it is real. That's what people did. They supported the family. I mean, let me be honest. When I was living in upstate New York with my ex-wife, I said ex, y'all can count the numbers on your fingers. I don't give a damn. Me and Tammy owned Tam's Cleaning Company. We were killing it in upstate New York.
I made enough money doing housekeeping and home health care that when my husband got hurt at work, I was supporting a family of 5.
People don't know.
Cleaning houses and doing home health care.
Let me tell you what the Italians say. There's money in dirt.
There is.
When I was a kid, my dad, I remember my dad, my stepdad, he owned a construction company along with my mom, and they would take me and drop me off at these construction houses, and I would basically scrap the house. Like I would pick up all the drywall and everything like that and throw it in the back of the truck. They would leave me there. I was like 8, 9, 10.
And
that's a decent job for a kid that age.
And I remember one day I was like, hey, Dad, when are you going to pay me?
Kids have to learn to work.
Yeah, I was like, hey, Dad,
what? Learn to contribute to the family. They have to learn to carry their own weight. Now, of course, a 6-year-old is not going to be expected to do the same as a 12 or 15 or 18-year-old, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, it was. It's just
to learn, and they don't if they're coddled forever.
Yeah, it's being spoiled.
Yeah, it's funny because I was like, "Hey, Dad, when are you gonna pay me? I want to get paid." And he looked at me and he was like, "What do I need to pay you for?" He was like, "You only scrap one house a day. My employees normally scrap like 3 or 4 a day." And he was like, and on top of that, you have everything you need. I feed you. I give you a roof over your head. The hell do you need? I was like,
that was my father's logic.
Yeah, and he was like, I was like, well, he was like, so what else do you need? And I was like, well, maybe I want to get a few toys. He's like, you have enough toys.
Yeah. Wait till Christmas. Hey, Joey, wait till Christmas. Wait till your birthday. You'll get toys then. Don't worry about it. See, my son.
Don't worry about it, huh?
My son, 25 years old, said he needed a job. He wanted to work for me. I said, okay, you can work for me. How much I'm gonna get paid? Let me explain something to you, son. When I go, this is yours. So it's in your best interest to help me make this bigger and make it a financial resource for you when I go and you fully have to take over this business. Did it work? These kids are stupid. He turned his back and walked away. Said, you ain't paying me, so I don't have to work. So where you gonna get the skills from? Where you gonna get the knowledge from?
Yeah. Well, it's like for me, like after I got told that, I was like, oh, well, maybe I need to work harder. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, they doing 3 houses and you doing one. You lucky. Listen, you that young and you doing one. Just imagine how well you do when you're 13.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I was able to get up to like 2 houses a day, but it also depended on how big the house was too, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and like he was building houses for like really rich people after a certain point. I mean, like people I mean, houses that are crazy. I can't even explain. You know, you got just a married couple with like, you know, 7 to 15 bedrooms,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm just like,
First wife's house.
Why?
yeah, yeah.
It's
And
like,
well, and
why?
no, it's like, and it was like, what was it? There was like the house that he started building for this group. Then all of a sudden, all the neighbors were like, oh, come work for us, upgrade our place, you know? And it was like the guy who used to own the Raiders way back when. Like he lived across the way from that house, and you know, he went and did work on his house, like all sorts of super rich people. It was nuts, man. And they walk in and be like, you know what? I don't like the way that looks. Tear it down.
And
They do it different.
And they're paying for it. Just to let you know, they gonna pay for it. You built it, and you have to tear it down. That customer's paying for it.
Yeah, and they paid for it and rebought all the new supplies and everything. It was pretty crazy, you know.
I need my driveway done. And hold on, can I get these little rocks that I can step on when I walk across my yard? And I need a new deck. And besides the deck, could you also put a fence around the deck? So, cause I want the little doggy to go and touch the ground. Cause my little Precious gotta stay clean. Precious.
Yeah, they had these big statues of like they had a lion on each side where the entrance of the door was, and they came one day and were like, you know what, pull those out, we don't want those anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and you got to pay for the truck to lift the stone statue out. You got to pay for the truck to haul it. It's considered trash. You're going to recycle it. It's considered trash. You're going to recycle it. And that's the purpose of it all. And who knows? It might end up in the front yard of your house.
it was crazy though, because one day the guy that basically did the blueprints for all the buildings and stuff, he was like, you know, your son can't be here. And my stepdad was like, oh, so he can't be there? He was like, well, I can't take him anywhere else. Give him my last check. You know, and he was making a lot of money. And he was like, give me my last check. And he wasn't happy about the situation, but you know, he was like, if my kid can't be here, then I guess I'm not going to be here, you know, and the thing was I never bothered anybody either. You know, I just went away from everybody. They did their stuff. And that was when I was a lot more younger, but it was just crazy. And the guy was like, what? You know, he was like, you just walk away from your job. And it's like, yeah,
I like your dad. That right there says
that I can respect. Yes.
Respect. 100% respect for your dad, bro.
Because he expected you to be part of the family, and he was willing to turn down work to keep you part of it. That I respect.
I mean, like, he's done a lot of stuff that I don't have a lot of respect for, but that blew my mind.
Nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
That's one of the things in this world that folks got to understand is, you know, parents are people. We're not perfect either. And when you get into that role, you may fuck up worse than we did.
Oh no, I just wait for the kids to come back and say, well, you worse than grandma. Oh, that's a slap in the face and a big elbow drop.
You worse than grandma. One of my kids spent a month living with my sister and my mom.
I bet he came back like, oh.
They came back and they were like, Mom, yeah, we understand why you are like you are now.
You know something? My question about
And
your
I had told them, don't do it. You'll regret it. My mom can only handle somebody else being in the house for 2 weeks, max. Don't do it. And they stayed for the full month. And I'm like, oh my God. My mother called me wanting dirt on my kid so that she would have an excuse to kick him out of the house. And she got mad because I wouldn't talk to her. I'm not going to help her.
something.
I'm not going to help her do that.
It's like,
Herself.
They invited my son to stay with them. Why would I help her do that?
Hold on. So your grandma want to kick out grandson, but grandson has no respect for mama.
Right.
You know something? I hate to say it. Your son's a hypocrite.
It's a great big mess.
It's a hypocrite. That's hypocritical. Because guess what? If he had any common sense, he would know that I already told you about grandma. You know, it's like they say, don't mess with no fool because you already know the person's a fool. And if you know that person's a fool, what the fool gonna do?
I told them what my mother was like.
it's like
In as objective terms as I could. I gave her a fair shake. And I told them she will nitpick. She can only tolerate people in her house for up to 2 weeks.
Because you're intruding.
And don't you go in her kitchen.
Oh, snap.
She could not share her kitchen with her own daughters.
Your son actually thought he could go in the kitchen?
Yeah. He's worked as a cook at a restaurant. He thought
No.
he could go in the kitchen.
I don't care if he's Chef Boyardee. Try that with my mama. Try that with my mama. My mama will look at you funny and be like, did you not see me pull out these knives?
Pretty much, yeah. That's about how my mama's attitude is. Now, I can share a kitchen with my kids, and if it's a nice person, I can bite my tongue, you know.
Right.
But it's my kitchen. You know, women are like that. We're territorial. Our kitchen is our kitchen. That's
kitchen and bathrooms.
And if a woman is not that way about her kitchen, she don't cook.
Hold on. Say that again, because I think a lot of people out there are just lost.
If a woman is not territorial about her kitchen, it's because she don't cook.
Thank you. See,
and she will be territorial about what she does use.
Mm-hmm. You don't use.
Don't ever move anything in that kitchen around. Don't ever do that.
Hey, that spoon. That spoon is got rust. Oh, hey. Why are you touching that spoon? That spoon's been there for 17 years.
You
Put that shit right there back where it was.
Exactly. I've got stuff in my kitchen that's from the 1970s, and Grandma does not even go near it.
Well, in this house, I'm the cook. I'll be honest, I'm the cook. And I'm the one that likes to shop and buy food. I don't buy junk. I go buy me some steaks. I buy me some shrimps. I buy, you know the deal. I gotta eat. And I eat good. You know what I mean? I love my salads. I love vegetables. She don't like it, but I love vegetables.
Since I've been disabled, Lou has been doing more of the cooking.
And he looks at you funny when you walk in the kitchen. Well, I'm gonna tell you, I was in my mom's kitchen, and I told Mom, I asked her. Let's be honest. I asked my mother if I could cook. She said, "Okay, I'll go upstairs and stay in the bedroom." Why the hell that woman downstairs in the kitchen looking at me, telling me you didn't wash that dish, you didn't wash that bowl, you didn't. I said,
You didn't.
the hell did I do?
Yeah, I know. I cooked in my mother's kitchen once as she was living in an apartment, and I went and a friend took me and I made dinner in her kitchen, and she was literally taking things out of my hand to wash them.
Yes, that's my mama.
Yeah.
Oh, my mom was the opposite. She was like, "You better do the dishes. That's what
Oh
you do."
no! Listen, by the time you finish cooking, you should have had a clean sink.
Uh-huh.
And hold on, and at the same time you're serving the dinner at the dinner table hot. Hold on.
Multiple dishes and all of them hot or cold, like they're supposed to be, all at the same time.
I was raised, if you didn't eat your food, it was going to be out there in the morning for breakfast.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I got a dog.
What was it? It was
My dog likes vegetables.
chili. She would make chili, and we would eat chili for like a week almost. You know.
Oh my God, they make the big huge pots, don't they? Oh my God, those 10-quart pots.
I have one of those.
Yeah, we're gonna reheat it and stir it the next day. We're just gonna keep doing it till it's gone.
God, you brought back memories of that.
And once that's done, it's sloppy joes.
Sloppy joes.
And then after that,
You pour the sauce off, the water off the sauce, and the meat that's in there, and the pot goes down just to that. And now you got sandwiches, sloppy Joe for the rest of the meat with the sloppy Joe. Well, I'm hungry. Well, you know what you do? Go in the kitchen. It's not that time we have dinner. But what if I get hungry later? We have dinner.
Uh-huh.
and then after that, it was pot roast for a week.
Oh my God! Hey! Down pot roast. I've never gotten a pot roast, but it lasted so long. It lasted longer than the Thanksgiving turkey.
Yeah, and what was it like?
Uh-huh.
And then once in a blue moon, we get to go out and eat.
Hold on, Blue Moon.
Yeah.
Oh, my daddy thought that taking us all to McDonald's was a big splurge.
Hold on. Yeah, you went to McDonald's? Look, you went to McDonald's.
Yeah, we had McDonald's when I was a kid. Yeah.
As I got older, yeah, McDonald's was breakfast
Only place to go.
every morning. We'd go to McDonald's.
Oh, this was once every 6 months. He would splurge and take us out to McDonald's, and he would have us working in the fields in the summertime for
He said
cash.
working in the fields. He had us working in the fields picking cotton.
No, we were cutting grapes for raisins, and we were picking walnuts.
Oh, that's worse. Them
That's work.
black walnuts. I used to live in Salinas, California. Them black walnuts were work.
This was Tulare County.
Oh shit! You got them snakes around them trees, them big ass spiders.
Tulare County. We're talking cutting grapes for raisins, and we're talking picking walnuts. And this was our school clothes money that we earned so that we could have clothes for school in the fall. And meantime, we're working in shorts and tank tops and barefoot out in the fields. And what does Daddy decide should be lunch for these hardworking kids?
Oh, shit.
A bag of Fritos and a jar of Fresno chilies.
Oh, you lucky. I would have told you to eat the nuts and the grapes. And
We weren't allowed to touch the grapes for eating them because we were getting paid to cut them.
Yeah, they did charge. We did charge them by the pound when we sold them, so that's all good. You know, people.
That was eating the grapes was stealing from the boss.
Right,
So he taught us not to do that. You don't steal from the boss.
boss. How about this? Do you remember the days when we used to get cans and bottles and recycle them?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I used to
My sister used to do that.
dumpster diving to get cans and bottles.
Yeah,
My sister used to do that, man. She collected plastic and cans all the time. I mean, boxes of them. And then we would have to take them down. And I mean, she would get a pretty good hefty chunk of money for it. It was
for
actually pretty
nothing.
surprising.
For nothing. Literally, it's for nothing. It's something that you find literally all over the street. I mean, if you find a good sporting event, or if there's a festival in a niche town, you go over there. And it's freemoney.com after you just bought yourself a couple of drinks and some food. But that's okay. It's okay because you know at the end somebody's gonna be there trying to get them cans and them bottles.
Yeah. We have in my area where I live now, we have homeless people who have sectioned off territories of the county. And if you go in and you start trying to collect the cans and bottles out of their trash cans, they will hit you.
Yeah. I mean, has society changed? Has the world changed? Penny, you got a question in the chat here. Can JP comment on his experience with J Essex?
Did you have an experience with J Essex?
Yeah, let's see, he did some DNA alteration work on me. And helped remove quite a bit of blocks that were in the way of me remembering things.
Cool.
Yeah, and it was pretty interesting.
I've never
Put
interacted with him, so
yeah, he put some energy into me, and basically expanded my energetic field. And then there was some other stuff he like said a few things that caused me to have some memories come through. He talked about basically when I was a baby, how they came in and knocked everybody out in the house and like took samples from me to do testing to find out who I was and things like that.
find out who you are. Oh yes.
I was about to say something funny, but I was gonna leave that alone because I would have been cracking up.
What it is if you are in these programs, you are an incarnated something else. And they come through and test people in babyhood or early toddler to find out who you were in your past life so that they know what you're capable of now.
Yeah, and I mean, I have the recording and everything, and I made a copy of it and stuff. I can't release it to the public because I don't have the other person's permission to do so.
Okay.
But I mean, not that I wouldn't. It doesn't bother me any.
It sounds like me. It's like, it's not like I really give a damn. I might just play it right now. I don't know. That's my style, man. You can't be stealing my style from me, bro, man. You're supposed to be the nice guy. My style, I really don't care about, something. Y'all play this crap so y'all can hear it. Because these people lying, they tell the truth or whatever.
I let people say what they want to say, and I just let it go. I like to give people, how do I put this? I like to give people rope, whether they hang themselves with it or whether they climb out of the hole they just dug. That's up to them.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's a nutshell right there. Hey, that's one of them black walnuts.
That's one of them black walnuts.
I remember, I got to go back to a memory. I remember when I was in Seniors, California, and I used to have to cut and throw in the bag avocados.
Oh, yeah.
Man, that shit was heavy.
Uh-huh. Yeah, when I was at San Diego State, we cut avocados one year.
Man.
That was the hardest work I'd ever done.
I thought no, the hardest work I ever did was strawberries. You on your knees, crawling on the
Did,
ground, ants all over you.
Oh
Thinking
God.
about bad memories. I'm sorry,
did
people.
that cover the question that that person had?
All right, and what did that cover that question? She said, well said. Very good. Very good. Any more questions? Anybody in the chat here? Because I mean, I see y'all. Yeah.
I
Okay.
had to turn off my Facebook because it was duplicating and make. You remember back in the day whenever that you would get all these pop-ups and it would just.
Mhm.
That's what Facebook was doing for me. So I figured I didn't have enough bandwidth.
Well, I heard Facebook was going to change their name.
I've heard that too, but I don't know to what. I
Maybe.
mean, the whole point of stuff is branding so that brand recognition.
Yeah.
That's why all my stuff is Nacht Waffen pilot.
Well,
Brand
they may change their name to Shit Book. How about that?
recognition. Censor book is the most accurate.
Yeah. Either way, it's still crap. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm a little blunt today. I've already been on too many interviews, honestly.
I like when they do their where somebody will put out a meme about fact checking like what was it, like something stupid, and like they're like, this has been fact checked, and then they have an actual fact check done on the on this meme, and it's like, this is missing context, and it's like, that's the point.
Oh yeah.
Hold on.
You haven't seen those where that you put up a post and they fact check it and you take a picture of the total fact check thing and you share that and then Facebook will fact check it again. It's hilarious. I mean, absolutely hilarious.
My favorite was our
I'll have to send you one.
the one that I liked the most was the one where, like, when dude tripped like 3 times walking up to the plane, and they fucking they had some little article, and then it was like, this has been fact checked or something, and then like Facebook was like, this is missing context. He didn't fall like that. I'm just like, oh my gosh, really?
And everybody saw him do it.
Yeah.
That's what is the worst about the fact checking is you're watching it happen and they're telling you it didn't.
Hold on. I'm sitting right here and I'm watching this meteor come out the sky. Fact check said it didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's going down is you can
like,
watch things happen. You can share the article and Facebook will fact check it as missing context because it doesn't go with their narrative.
Or it's like, yes, the meteor did come down, but it was 3 centimeters off, and they didn't state that, so this is missing context.
Listen, Penny, I told you, he's a wild man. I like him.
I told you he was good.
Not
only does he have a sense of humor, but he's also real.
You know something? Like I said from the beginning, if he wants a show on the network, I got a slot for him. And last but not least, I like him because he's human. He's not a stuck-up prick like most of these people out there. Look, we want humans. We want people that's going to be human and look for the facts, and teach you the knowledge, that's want to tell you the truth. That's what we want. That's what this network is about. It's not a goddamn conservative network.
Oh, that was in articles about us lately, that we're a right-wing conservative network. And the truth of the matter is we're about truth, and some of the hosts are conservatives.
Yeah, literally.
I don't know. I mean, realistically, the majority of this country has a conservative value at some level. So I don't even understand their point of view. I mean, just look at your grandparents or your great grandparents. They have conservative values.
My father
Yeah.
was a John Bircher.
Hey, I am.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter how left you are.
In that era, that was as conservative as it gets.
Yeah, and it still is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, you know, I understand those values. I have no problem with most of them.
Hey,
Yeah,
the
I mean, most of them are just down to earth, like what
Now,
you're just supposed to do to live. But
as far as what people do in their personal lives, as long as it's consenting adults, I don't give a shit what they're doing.
yeah, I mean,
You leave the kids alone, and you don't force folks to do what they don't want to.
don't mess with the babies. Please don't mess with the babies. You will not only turn these people on air's stomach and make them flip out and come chase you down the street and beat the crap out of you, but
Yeah, we have experienced what they do to babies and
Mhm.
ourselves, and I have a baseball bat with your name on it if I know you're doing it.
I'm coming. Had to take care of pops. Okay, Reverend Ed. Whenever you get here, you listen, Reverend Ed. You know how it goes over here. We have a good conversation. We got the open place. We got a pure forum, and I'm up. And I really, oh shit! I got beer in the freezer. I'll be back, guys. I got beer in the.
You put beer in the freezer? Ooh, ooh, ooh.
I think I got a few Mike's Hard I need to drink tonight.
Huh?
I said I have a few Mike's Hards that I need to drink tonight.
I used to do Angry Orchard.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a diabetic now, so well, Angry Orchard and Di Serrano. I was married to this guy that was affiliated with a certain Italian group, and Di Serrano was acceptable, and some of the other things that I like to drink were not.
My favorite drink that I like to put together is Mountain Dew Volt with vodka, 100 proof vodka. You mix that together. It's like you're drinking a nice soda, and you're gonna get screwed the fuck up.
I got the bubbles on it.
Hello, Reverend Ed.
Hello.
I'm going to stop recording now. Our show is officially over, and Reverend Ed is here.
Later. I'll separate them later. I'm just gonna let them.